glad I asked.
Yeah, I'm glad you asked. All right, so we're doing a Shurima tier list of all of the cards. The deal is basically we're going to do it based on potential of the cards. So regardless of whether they've found a deck or a home yet, or we think they will, they're going to be based on how easy it is to find a home and how strong it would be in those archetypes that we perceive. Then each of us will get a veto where we essentially can say, I want this card to be where I think it should be, and whoever says veto first gets that one veto. But we each only have one. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So starting off with Ancient Hourglass, it's a B tier card, I think.
I think that its average use case scenario is more along the C tier, but like, I think that its potential is definitely B tier worthy. Like, it can do some cool stuff with like ETB effects, but like
Talia, even though she's like the worst win rate champion.
Yeah, Talia's really bad, but like I guess it's good there.
I think that in any deck that wants it is very, very solid. And I think it ends up slipping into a lot of decks that, like, I think it can slip into like more mid-range piles. It hasn't found a home yet, and that's, kind of stopping it from being like really a solid B, but I think it still slips into B because I think it has that potential.
Yeah, it maybe should be a C tier card, but it's right around that area. I think like bottom of B tier, top of C tier type card, something like that.
Ancient Preparations. I think this card is bad.
This card's bad, yeah. I've played against this card once in Constructed. It's just, it was so... He even played it on turn 1. It was just the worst ever. Yeah, I played Lysandra. He just... this 2/2 comes into play on the same turn as Lysandra. That's not where you want to be.
And also just think about this card is not even above rate.
Yeah.
No, you're not getting a bigger unit than you're paying for. You're getting a Cythria. Like a little Cythria. This 2 turns later,
just infinitely worse than Penitent Squire. Like,
yeah, absolutely.
All right, D tier.
Yeah, the only reason it's not F tier is because it only costs 1 mana.
Yes,
and because like Shape Zone and like you can do some landmark things with it. It's like a cheap landmark to put in your deck.
And I've even I've played against this card, and I've played about a dozen games with the Lucian Scout stack, and it just isn't. It's just not.
It's just bad.
Just ain't it.
Arise.
Well, so I don't know. Is this Azir's Arise or just putting the spell
card Arise?
I'm off it.
Okay. Because I think Azir gets a little bonus from his champ spell being Arise, but we'll talk about that when we get there.
Yeah, I actually think that like, when you're casting Azir's Arise, it's usually very good.
Yes.
But like
Arise as a card.
Like, I'm just never going to put Arise as a card in my deck. Like,
Absolutely
it's
not.
just never going to make the cut.
So,
it's like, it's maybe, I don't think it's an F.
Okay.
So, like,
but like,
see, here's the thing. I can think of scenarios where I put Ancient Preparations in my deck. I cannot think of a scenario where I put Arise in my deck.
That's pretty fair, because like, you're always going to have Azir in your deck if you're putting Arise in it. Just and saying. You really don't need more copies of this effect.
Hear me out. They look like 1/1s, but they are basically 2 power. If you're trying to overwhelm a defense with them. And it's a lot of burst speed attackers.
By the time...
On turn 6, you could put 6 power into play at burst speed before you attack.
For what it's worth, by the time you're putting this card in your deck, you're also definitely playing that 4 mana card that pumps all your stand soldiers as well.
Yeah.
So like, I could actually see a reasonable scenario in which you're using this on like turn 4, like play Arise. They're all 2/1s or whatever,
honest,
and then attack for 6.
It sounds like you're trying really hard to play the card. Let's see, the 4 mana card that makes 2 sand soldiers and gives all your sand soldiers +1/+0.
Well, that was probably we would say we would want to be playing with this, but
I am trying real hard to make this card. It's Desert's Wrath.
Yes, the card is just.
I would just like to lobby for it to maybe be D tier, but I actually have never seen anyone play it. So
yeah, I don't really like.
That's fair. I've actually at least seen.
It's burst speed. It's burst speed, which gives it like some use cases, but that really makes
the only reason this card is at all good.
Yes.
Yeah. I think I agree with this card being an F tier, just because you're just not going to put it in your deck.
Yeah.
Like, like I could see a reason why people would put the like 1 mana landmark in their deck, even if I think it's bad, but I just like can't even see a justification for putting Arise in your deck, really.
Yeah, it's tough. All right, Ascended's Rise. think once again.
This is the one that levels up all your Ascended
all
champs,
your
right?
level 1 Ascended allies.
This card is so bad.
F tier, baby.
This is just a straight F.
Thank God. I was afraid I was gonna have to use my
No.
anywhere
put this one
near
into F.
anything. Yeah,
This card is awful.
We could make like a separate tier below. It says Ascended Rise. I mean, it's not like
it's not that bad, but it's bad.
Yeah, I'm struggling to figure out when you would really want this card. Maybe if you're playing
I've actually got the answer to that.
Yeah. Okay.
The
Let's
answer
hear.
is Expedition.
Ah.
Ooh.
That is a little spicy. Yeah. But
where
like,
this part might actually be okay if you can like I could definitely see like like leveled up champions just win the game so often in Expedition because they're kind of hard to deal with.
Right.
Like if you just like cast this and Renekton's the only champion that hits and you just like draw a leveled up Renekton, like a lot of the time you're just gonna kill people with it. But like I'm not putting this card anywhere near my constructed deck.
Yeah. Okay. Aspiring Chronomancer. It's a 2/3 for 2 that when you play it, you predict.
I mean, like
This one seemed decent.
this one seems pretty good,
Yep.
right? Like, I mean, there's not a lot of predict support going on right now. We're probably gonna get more later, but
Yeah.
like right now, I don't know. This just looks like a C,
Yep.
just like a straight C.
I agree.
Like,
I think it's a
Yeah.
C.
I've seen it in a couple of people's like spicier brews to kind of tie things together. Maybe with like Xenotype researchers and stuff.
But like, is it ever better than a C? Like,
Yeah.
potential wise, is it ever really better than a C? I mean, it does the thing. It's
Totally.
yeah.
and
It does
yeah,
the thing.
It's
a
playable.
C.
I'm comfortable saying that.
Yeah.
Too easy.
Bakai Reaper. I think that's how you say that, Bakai.
Yeah, this is the 1-mana 2/1.
Yes, 1
Right.
mana 2/1. When you slay a unit, give me +1/+0, and it's fearsome.
Yeah, this card is like quite good, right? Like the potential on this one is real.
Yeah.
Which one?
Bakai Reaper. Oh, hello.
Hello,
it's a 1/2 for 1 that when you play it, or sorry, when you slay a unit, you give it +1/+0, and it's got fearsome.
Yeah, this one I think has A tier potential at least.
I'm more inclined to give it B because I think that I was higher on this card when I first saw it. When I first saw it, I was like, this card is a really stellar 1-drop, and I think it's going to make waves.
So this is
even in the decks, like even in the SI decks that really try to sacrifice their own creatures, it just feels a little less.
their own creatures.
Yeah, you're right. Slay their own creatures. It feels a little less impactful than I want it to. But
So
maybe I'm low on it.
that's fair. I've actually not played with this card. I've just seen a lot of people on Twitter say that they thought it was like really good, but that was a lot of day one impressions, and the card has really fallen off since then.
This card is like very archetypical. Like this is the Legends of Runeterra card. Like every region has like a 1-mana 1/2 with a keyword.
Yeah.
That gets bigger whenever you do a thing. Like there's one for support, there's one for barrier, there's one for slay, there's one for
There's just a lot.
There's one for stun and recall in the Yasuo decks. It's just and this one is nice because one of the big problems with those is that they just trade with 2-drop with two power creatures, and the fact that this attacks past that is pretty big. So I think A is a good place to put this.
Yeah.
Like a solid role player. It's not going to be meta defining. It's going to be a solid role player in a good deck.
I think that. Go ahead.
I think it's B.
I agree.
I'm also leaning towards B because the thing is, so I've played against this card a lot. I haven't played with it. I haven't piloted any of the Azir or Shurima burn decks or hyper aggro decks, but this card would actually be C or maybe even D to me if it weren't for the fact that it has fearsome. And fearsome, every single time this card is played against me, I'm like, okay, I'll do this, I'll do this, I'll do this. All right, and then this guy will block one of his 2 Bakai Reapers. And then like I'm about to finish off my blocks, my combat's gonna go great, and then this big giant letters in the screen say, "This unit can't block fierce," and I'm like, God damn it. And like it doesn't play nearly as well as you think it will, but it plays well enough that it has places in decks, and fearsome. Just it having fearsome is the reason I put it in B
Yes.
and not anything lower. A is high for me, I think, personally.
agree.
I think it's
I don't
agree
know.
with
I'm
that.
looking at this Ancient Hourglass, and I'm thinking to myself that this card is clearly a tier above Ancient Hourglass.
I mean, we can
Hard
move down Ancient Hourglass if you want. I think that Ancient Hourglass is fairly in line with Aspiring Chronomancer, if that's where we want to put it.
I think that Ancient Hourglass is a card that is potentially. I think we've sort of figured out how good Bakai Reaper is right now.
Yeah.
That's
But I
pretty
think
fair.
that Ancient Hourglass is a card that like we can't say we know exactly how good it is.
And we
That's
are
true.
grading based on potential.
Yes, I think you weren't quite here for when we said that, but potential is how we're trying to grade these cards rather than exactly like how good they are right now. So I mean, you pretty much exactly did it yourself.
Yeah,
Cool.
Yeah, I think that's
I'm
just
willing to
it.
land that there.
Let's
That's
keep it here.
fine. I think he's good.
All right, Bakai Sand Spinner.
Yes.
I agree. I think it's a
Wait,
snap
which one?
ass, in my opinion.
Which
Have
one?
you
Oh,
ever
yeah.
seen
Bakai
this
Sand
card?
Spinner is a 4-mana 5/3 for the people who
Card
don't
is
know.
nonsense.
When you play it, you give an enemy -1/-0 and vulnerable.
Has anyone ever beaten this card?
I mean, yes, but
Yes,
like
but it's hard.
Yeah,
but you had
like,
to think about that. I had to think about have I ever beat my opponent casting this?
It
You
is
play a
a-
Fiora and they're like, oops, and yeah.
Yes.
Ah,
it's
it's
a
off.
it's a tempo 2-for-1. Like it's a 2-for-1 that generates tempo, which is pretty sick.
Yeah, this card is sick.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah,
So-
you look at it and you're like, well, a 5/3 trades with a lot of things, and you're like, you just don't appreciate how
Yeah.
unbelievably debilitating one of your creatures getting vulnerable is.
And -1, permanently.
-1,
Not a
-0
5/3,
is
you put 5/4
surprising.
on the first trade because
Yes.
it shrinks something.
This card is like Flame Tongue Kavu.
Yep. Also, it having
Like-
5 power is so relevant for the
For the
reputation.
river decks, yeah.
And when you give something vulnerable, it's a lot easier to get in with your 4-mana 5/3.
Yes,
Like if it
absolutely
only had
true.
one unit, or only one 3-power unit, you
Yep.
make that unit 2-power, and then you're just get to smack them.
Yeah, and it's huge good with Renekton. Yeah, this card.
I think we're preaching to the choir at this point.
Huge good.
Yeah.
Huge
Heard you
good.
first.
I get special adjectives out for how good that card is.
All right, so we're gonna Bloodthirsty Marauder. It's a 3/1 for 1. I think it's
Solid C tier.
yeah. I don't see really
Strictly
any
better than a
argument for-
Noxus card for Noxus. Moving on.
Yeah, exactly.
Wait a second. Is that Ancient Preparations I see in the D?
Yes.
All right, Hugh, do you have problems with that?
I do.
All right.
Veto time.
Speak.
Or is it time to slap it into F
Speak,
tier?
please.
No.
It's
C.
going into F tier.
I think it's an absolute C.
You think this card is playable?
I
At
think
all?
this card.
I think
Yeah.
it is on
Wow.
the low range of playable, but I think it still slaps D tier.
Slaps D tier.
I
So-
would argue this is on the very low range. Of
We
play.
have one in the chat that also speaks to Ancient Prep is great.
I don't think
Wow.
I think you guys are like. I think this card's not even bad. Like I think this card's
Interesting.
not only playable, but just,
Really.
How much
Yeah.
value do you think we get out of 4-power?
All right, I'll let you make your case.
I don't know. Have you? Has no one played against this card yet?
No, I
Like,
have.
yes,
I've played
I
against
have.
the card
It's
like at least a dozen times. I've played with the card at least a dozen times.
Have you ever seen this card cast on like turn 4?
I'll be honest, it's got an avalanche or two, but other than that, it's not been at all impressive.
The reason I don't want to put it in D tier is because in my I don't know the exact metric you guys are going for here, but anything in D tier isn't a card you put in a deck to me.
Ooh,
I,
I was
I agree that's where this card should be. And people
Okay.
should not put this card in their deck. That is what I do with this card.
I think D
there are
tier is
decks
fringe
that goes-
case. That's my opinion. D tier is like
Okay.
otherwise there's no point in having the distinction between D and F.
Yeah, I agree. I like that distinction for D tier versus F tier. But I do think it is the problem for me is like I don't think it's D, and I think that the cards currently in C are a little bit better than it, but not so much that I wouldn't also
Oops.
put it in C. Like I'd rather lean towards C than D. And if you want to keep it in D, that's totally fine. I get it, but
Yeah.
yeah, I think
I
it's
just don't want to play this card. Like it's the same rate as Cythria. Like look at this card versus like Penitent Squire or even Bloodthirsty Marauder. Like I just can't like the only decks where I'm going to put, Ancient Preparation in my deck instead of Bloodthirsty Marauder are the ones where I really care about my landmarks. So it's like a Talia deck or like a deck with like 3 Shapestones, and even then I don't even think it's worth like you just get a Cythria. It's not like you're getting like a 3/3 or something bigger than your normal 1 mana is going to get you. Like this, the one mana 2/2 is like below rate. Like the 1 mana 2/2 is not above rate. Let alone you don't get it till turn 3.
What's the look mechanic called? I keep wanting to say foretell. Okay, predict is a decent amount of value.
Yeah, it's not no value for sure. Like, but the predict needs to be good enough to make up for the fact that our one drop 2/2 is like doesn't come into play until turn 3.
All right.
And, like that's like
Here's the deal. I think that given that Ancient Preparations is seeing as much play as it is, which it's seeing quite a bit, and I think there's some arguments for putting it in C tier. I'm comfortable putting it in C tier, and we just move on, and we can chalk that one up to maybe a mistake.
But everyone who plays it is bad, and so is you.
Okay, well clearly that's the case, but we got.
And that's why you guys are so much better at card evaluation.
Right, exactly. Yes. Mhm.
I do think that this card should not be in any decks. Moving on.
All right. Well, we can disagree unless anyone wants to use their veto on it, though. I'm going to put it in C tier. And
That's fine. We can move on.
I'm vetoing it to S.
Boomerang Blade. It is a 7-mana slow card. An ally strikes the strongest and weakest enemies. D tier.
I mean, like, yeah, this is a D at best.
I think it is fringe playable. It is possible that it will find a home at some point. I think it is quite decent with Sivir, especially since she has a.
All right. I think the Stand Soldier card is better than this card. So I don't want to put this card a tier above this card.
Really, you think Arise is better than Boomerang Blade?
Yeah, like it's just like so much. I'm so much more likely to play a deck in which I put Arise in than the Blade. Like the Blade, this card is just not constructed playable. Like you can get really blown out.
Okay, I'm cool with F tiering it.
Low.
How about
that? Like at least put this in F.
Okay.
Yeah,
but maybe bump Arise to D. I don't know.
I'm not bumping Arise to D unless you.
Yeah, I think this card is D tier at best as well. So F seems about right.
Okay. Buried Sundisk. 1 mana, start of the game, draw 1 if you have only Shuriman cards in your deck. Countdown 25, you restore the Sundisk. I can go into it more, but I think people understand.
I think people know what the
Sundisk
Hollywood deck does.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that this card is a C, and then as soon as you put it in your deck is a D. Does that make sense?
Yeah, this is a weird one because like we're grading on potential here. So like my inclination for this card is like I want to just like immediately be like snap, put it in F, don't play this card. Like this is not what you want to do with your deck. But like the fact about this card is that like this card is so intrinsically tied to your deck that like it feels like you can't really disassociate the two because that is how good the card is, right? Like
this is the perfect card for D tier in my opinion, where it has fringe playability.
Yeah,
but because it is difficult to put in a deck. And not make the deck shit.
It's hard. Yeah, it's hard because we're grading on potential, and like this card clearly has a lot of potential.
Yes.
Yeah, like we get a really good. So the problem is
just not right now. I think
we have to get more Shurima Ascended champions, and I guess we're probably not going to get Ascended champions in other reasons. That would be kind of weird.
And I think what we have to do is we have to do potential based on the cards we currently have, or else it's just a complete mess.
It also only loses 10 if the champion you level is Ascended, right?
Yes.
It's only when you level Ascended champs?
Yes.
Yeah.
There's one deck this card goes in is the thing. We can evaluate this card very, very definitively because there is precisely one deck that it is played in and no other decks. And
and that deck is like D tier.
Yeah, exactly. And I like D.
Okay, very cool.
Where I'm going with that.
Callus Bonecrusher. It's a 4-mana, 6/3, and then when you have activated Reputation, it costs 2 instead of 4.
So how much? This is purely constructed, right? We're not factoring Expedition into this at all.
We're not factoring Expedition.
D.
Yeah,
I agree.
I think that this card is fringe playable.
It's a 5/2
at best.
It's a 6/2. It's a 6/3.
6/3.
Oh yeah.
I think it is fringe playable. I've actually toyed around with putting it in the the LeBlanc Sivir decks where you just have like a go off card. Or sorry, a go off turn where you like activate Reputation and you just play a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, it costs 2 when that's true.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, it gets
for 6 power is certainly nothing to be scoffed at, but like it really just needs Overwhelm or something like.
Yes.
not when you pay 4 mana for this card, like if your opponent plays 4 mana for like Twisted Fate or like Fiora and Eat Your Thing, like it's just going to be really bad. If
It certainly can be really rough. Absolutely, which is why it's fringe playable. I think
we did just compare it to 2 champions, to be fair, but like I agree. I agree that
that's how much mana it costs.
Yeah.
Okay. Moving on. 2/4, Desert Naturalist. It's a 2/4 for 4. When you play it, you destroy a landmark. In its place, you create a 5/4.
If the landmark's allied.
Yeah, sorry, if the landmark is allied. Oh, it's just destroy a landmark? Oh my
Yeah,
god, I did not realize. I thought it just
landmark.
had to be an allied landmark. I actually did not know that. I think this card is really good.
Yeah, it's really good. I think this card's like, it's great that this card exists. I'm not going to play it in every meta because it's not always going to have relevant text, but like I don't think it's an S, at least not right now.
I think
but
it's
it
an A,
could.
though.
I was debating myself for C or B, but I think I see your arguments. I would put it in.
I like B.
I like B.
So I'll tell you why I think it's an A.
Okay.
I think it's an A too.
Just being able to destroy a landmark at a 2/4 is going to be really good in certain metas. I don't think right now it is great, but like for example, if Tom Soraka was something we needed to worry about, this card is insane. Right. 2, you're not putting this in a deck that, doesn't do landmark stuff. And it is I think it's the best card, unless you're like counting Talia. It is the best card in those landmark decks. Like, this is the card that makes me want to build landmark decks. Because I'm like, this is such a huge tempo swing, and you usually have a ton of just, like, landmarks sitting around to, do whatever.
It's 4 mana for 7-8 stats.
Yeah. It was played against me when I was playing against the landmark deck.
5 mana, right?
Yeah, 4 mana. It's 4 mana.
4 mana.
4 mana?
mana.
Yeah, okay. Never mind. I know this card was 5 mana and was
yeah.
debating B. Yeah, I could see A.
I think this card has so much potential.
That's like when your opponent like slams the Veiled Temple on turn 4, and if you like play this, like, oh, we are doing it.
Oof.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or if they play the Veiled Temple and then you slam this and destroy your own, your own landmark and just beat for 1 million, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
you could do
Yeah,
that.
Nico has me convinced. I'm good with A. Given the potential here.
Very cool. Desert's Wrath. 4 mana slow. Grant allied sand soldiers everywhere +1/+0, and you summon 2 sand soldiers.
So I don't know about y'all, but I kind of put when I think B tier, I think like solid role player in a deck or two, not necessarily meta defining, not insane, and that's where I would put this card is B. It's good in the deck that it's good in, not really any other decks. Maybe how bad it is in every deck that isn't exactly Azir decks makes it a C, but I would put it in B.
I was gonna say C personally. It's not quite. I don't know. I haven't seen it do as much in the Sand Soldiers deck. Like you don't want to like. It seems like you don't want to go in on Sand Soldiers. It seems like Sand Soldiers is a thing that's good that happens.
Yeah,
I agree with you.
Yeah, that is kind of where it felt like it landed. I don't know. Before we got to play with these cards, I was pretty high on this card because it felt like there was a lot of Sand Soldier stuff, and the Sand Soldier stuff was going to be good. Turns out the Sand Soldier stuff is good, and you just don't really need this card for it to be good.
Yeah, you just need Azir and you need Dune Keeper, and that's
Turns out
basically
Aspiring
it.
War Marshal is a fucking house of a card.
Yeah, or just the Emperor's Dais really like turns it on a lot too. Like, I think this card is fine, and I think it definitely has at least B tier potential. Maybe has B tier potential, but probably realistically is more of a C. I don't know. C or B tier. I'm pretty happy with either. I think
I'm on a C tier here personally.
I'm okay with C tier.
All right.
I like C. Yeah.
Devoted Council. It's a 3 mana 1/6 that on round start, if you've leveled a champion, you heal your Nexus and all champions 2.
Right. This
Card
is not good.
I thought it was good. I'll own up to it. I thought this card was good.
This card is not.
It's not.
Yeah,
good.
This card is not playable. I think this card's an F. It's probably at least a D. I could see putting it in a deck. Like I could definitely see a meta where I would.
The deck that I wanted to try and put this in was a version of a Tom Kench deck of some kind.
Yeah, that would be Shurima Tom Kench. Someone built that actually. I can't remember who it was good or not, but someone did play that.
Yeah, I've I can't say I've seen that deck, but I would imagine that that's like where you would want this. But like even then, like what champion are you leveling? Like
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
and
Tom,
the thing is, this is probably better for a deck with Soraka in it and not Kench with the
Yes.
Star Spring still.
But,
Because
like,
Soraka actually levels. I think Soraka might be the easiest level champion in the game.
right, but
Soraka's
what are you
really
playing? Like,
like, what? How do you win the game?
Devoted Council, like Soraka
Renekton?
Shurima?
Is it like is it like Soraka Renekton and we're just trying to beat every turn? Like, I don't know.
Seems a little.
I don't know either. That's the thing. Like,
Exactly.
All right, so I'm pretty comfortable either putting this in D or F. How do we? Where do we come down?
I want to say D because I don't. This is the kind of card that like all it needs is one person who's smarter than us to like really figure out a home for it.
Yeah, okay.
I don't know about that, but that's reasonable.
I do think this card is pretty distinctly more likely to see play than any of the cards in F tier.
Yeah,
Don't get me wrong. I don't think this card is going to see play in this format, but I could at least. I think that if somebody came to me and was like, "Here's my meta-breaking deck. It's got 3 Devoted Council, and here's why," and explained it, I could see somebody convincing me.
That sounds like the right place for a D tier card. I agree.
Yeah, which is not true of Ascendance Rise.
Yep.
If you come to me with your sweet Ascendance Rise brew, I'm not going to play it. I'm sorry.
I'll be like, man, this is really sweet, and then I'll.
But I'm not grabbing
it. All right. 1 mana. Everybody knows his name. 1 mana. 2/1.
You know
Dune
You love
Keeper.
it.
He makes a Sand Soldier. It's going in S. I don't think
It's
there's
going-
any argument.
It's
S
not.
tier
Yeah.
on here.
Can I veto this card into D for when it inevitably gets nerfed, so we can be ahead of the curve?
I'll be like really mad at you if you do, but that is the rules as written.
Big fan of rules as written.
Yeah, this
Yeah.
card's a net.
All right, very cool.
That's an easy yes. Yeah.
Emperor's Dais, 2 mana, landmark, makes a Sand Soldier when allies attack.
I think that this card is almost entirely crafted the like Sand Scouts deck.
Yep.
Like pretty much entirely because this card exists, and like that is a very real meta deck that is basically built around this card. It's definitely a meta defining deck, I would say. Like,
Yeah.
I think this card is an S.
Emperor's Die. I think it's. I don't think it's an S.
I'm between A and S. I think I come down more on A.
Same. Yeah.
It's like it's not that it's not. I don't know. It's rough because its actual effect is really not that ridiculous. Like it's rewarding you for doing a plan that was good, but like it really feels like one of the best cards in that deck.
I think you're overrating how much of an impact Emperor's Dais has. I think it is more Azir that made the deck more than Emperor's Dais, but
I think the Emperor's Dais has been. And granted, like I think that you've played the deck. You've played the deck, and I have only played against it.
If your opponent has Fiora, extremely true, and also Barry Manser says that it's an A.
True.
I think it's an A because it's not like I am infinitely less scared of this card than I am of Azir himself. And like there's other things. There's just like this is one of the things that makes Sand Soldiers in a deck, and it's probably the least scary of those things in my opinion. It's still scary, and I still hate playing against it, and it's still strong. But I absolutely don't want to put it in S.
Yeah, I agree.
That's fair. I just think it really is the reason why we're doing the scout thing for the most part.
So here's one thing I will say is that because I've played about a dozen games of the Scouts deck, that the card is good, and certainly like I don't think the Scouts deck would be the same without it, like the Desert Scouts. But there's also a lot of awkward draws with it, where you have to play it on 2, and then you're not really doing the beatdown thing for a bit, and if you play it on 3, it's a lot worse. And there's some. It's very debatable exactly when you're supposed to, and I think that speaks to the fact that the card is not. It's not insanely stellar, right? Like it's good, but it's not insanely stellar.
That's fair. I'm okay with all this.
One thing I would like to ask: the chair that I'm in is ridiculously squeaky. Is it like coming through and being annoying?
It every once in a while I think I hear you. Or no, squeaky. No, I don't hear it.
I hear it a little bit, but not so much that it's like, it's not distracting.
Yeah.
If you hadn't said anything, I wouldn't have been like, "What's that squeaking noise?"
It's
like,
totally fine, I think.
Right, that makes sense.
So, 7 mana. Emperor's Divide. Give enemies vulnerable this round and summon 6 Sand Soldiers.
This card just costs too much mana.
This card reminds me a lot of Algebra 2, and that I give it an F.
Okay.
Wow.
I can't imagine putting this card in my constructed deck once again.
Same. Yeah, no, this card. I think that it might, based on the parameters of this tier list, I think we might want to put it in D. But I think its power level is probably F. But I don't know. I think we should put it in D personally. Actually, I'm gonna go.
With this card.
Yeah, this is like going in the like a Rise deck too, right? Like I just don't want to have what this Emperor's Divide is having.
Arise is so much better than this card.
I agree.
In fact, if we put this in F, Arise deserves to go up.
No.
Here's my argument for why I think Arise should stay where it is and this should go in D. Arise is Azir's champ spell, which is why so it's not only unnecessary to put in the deck, we have it in our deck, and we like it when we see it because it's an Azir.
Yes.
It's in the deck. We have it.
Yes.
We don't need to ever put it in any deck ever.
Yes.
Emperor's Divide is a card that I could feasibly see going in a specific deck at some point, and it being reasonable or not reasonable. Like the
board has to be empty. Like,
what's the point of giving everything vulnerable this round when you fill your board with 1/1s?
I'm not saying that line of text has to be good. I'm saying the card.
I'm saying every line of text on the card is bad.
I mean, I don't know. I don't think it's that awful. I think it's like a really bad.
How many
version of
votes for F do we got? Because I'm on F.
This is an F.
Okay.
All right.
Sounds like an F is the.
This is an F.
I don't want to spend too much time discussing Emperor's Divide, which is a card I've never seen cast. 3 mana, 3/4. Esteemed Hierophant. When I am summoned, advance the Sun Disc 2 rounds.
So this is like, I mean, it has to just go in D tier with the Sun Disc, right? I mean, maybe it's a D tier because it's at least a 3 mana 3/4, but like,
I think it's a D just because like it's I don't want to like this is expedition thing like I don't want to put a spider mech in my deck in this game.
2 rounds ain't very much, let me tell you.
Yeah. And this card is 25. Like the only way you're ever flipping the Sun Disc is if you level 2 Ascended.
Exactly.
Units. And then this doesn't matter.
Nope, it doesn't even matter. So
it's gonna be turn 5 by then already. Like,
I mean, you're
turn 6, right?
Is it even
Whatever.
D? Like, jeez.
I mean, it's got to be a D. It's a 3/4, right? Like,
guess.
It's clearly more playable than Arise. Or
Okay. It's a 3/4. It's a 3/4.
Yeah,
You guys keep
3
rocking
mana 3/4 is just inherently not game breakingly bad. Like you can just put it in any deck you're playing, and you're like, this will be good an amount of the time, and by good,
cast it, and it'll be okay.
Yep.
Someone in our Discord was trying to tell me that they could put Golden Crush Bot in their constructed deck for the seasonal, which they didn't end up doing because I talked them out of it. This is the quality content you get by being part of our Discord. But you know, just stats are relevant in a good amount of metas. Like 3 mana 3/4 is just good against aggro. It's like way better than playing 3 mana 3/2.
It's a good point. All right. I'm going to run to the bathroom, but before I do, I will give you something to discuss, which is Exhaust. It's a 1 mana focus card, or focus speed card, rather. Give an enemy -2, -0, and vulnerable. And I will be right back.
This one...
I'm going to drop
So, like, to be clear, this card is great, right? Like, we all agree this card's at least great.
Yeah.
I think it's good. I don't know.
You think it's good? Okay.
I don't know that I'd say great yet. I'm starting at B.
Starting at B. All right.
So I don't know if this is.
There's no way. I'm going to say this. There's no way I'm putting it in S. The argument is A or B for me.
I'm not going to put. I was going to try to put it in S. Or sorry, A tier. I'm going to try to argue for A tier.
Okay.
And that's because the potential on this card is really, really high with like Sivir and Renekton. Like this card really blows you out sometimes.
It absolutely does, but I feel like for this card, its potential is a little front loaded. Like we've seen people like this is one of the cards people were like, I'm gonna put this in decks on day one, and they did, and we played against it a lot, and it's sort of petering out a little bit. It's still in decks because it's not.
Yeah, it's still in decks because it's really good, and like I don't know. Like earlier this morning, I played a game, and I was like, or I guess last night I played a game, and just like my opponent just like cast 2 exhausts and killed me out of nowhere, and I was like, well, I mean, like, yeah, I guess I'm dead, right? You know, like, that stuff just happens, like, quite a bit with this card. It just eats your relevant creatures, like your champions and all that so often, especially if you've got big attackers. Like, really, Renekton is the card that I most am thinking about here, but it's really good with Renekton.
Yeah. Yes.
It is. I will say that the B tier to me is like similar to A, but like definitely your flex slots in a deck, and I feel like this card is one of your flex slots.
I think this is a very solid A. If
I would like to note,
I
don't think that Exhaust would be. I think flex slots are like card 35 through 40, and I would argue that in most Exhaust decks, that is not where this card is.
In fact, I am close to putting this card in S, to be honest.
Okay. I'm going to say that I expected this card to see a lot of play right out the gates, and I think most of those decks have ended up on Renekton's Champ spell instead. I'm not going to claim that that's correct, but I have seen more of Renekton's Champ spell than I have of this card recently, because the additional power lets you just get in for damage, and that being really important in decks that want to just like get you dead. So I think because there's that direct competition for this card's slot, I want to put it in A at highest.
Okay. I think
I'll take A.
A is the lowest I want to go on this card because it is a 1-mana removal spell sometimes, and that tempo swing at focus speed. Tempo swing is ridiculous.
Yeah, I don't think it should be lower than an A.
Okay.
I think A is exactly where this card belongs.
It's just a Bakai Sand Spinner trigger.
Yeah.
We're getting it for free on our 4-mana 5/3. Wow, that card is insane. My God.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. We've got a 4-mana 3/2 named Golden Ambassador. Allegiance. Draw a champion and give it +2/+2.
We were really high on this card when it got
still
split.
quite high on it, I'm going to be honest.
Still quite high on it, though I've come down just a little bit because I think that the Shurima Allegiance stuff isn't quite as good as that the Shurima cards aren't quite as good as I wanted them to be, so it's a little bit hard to build a Shurima Allegiance deck.
That is true.
And like, you know, when you see this card, like, you have hopes for like the Buried Sundisk and the Ascended thing, and now that we all agree that this Buried Sundisk thing is really bad, like, that means that, like, in order to consistently trigger this, you basically have to build that deck. And I still think that this card is going to be really, really good in the future when we get a few more Shurima cards so that we can effectively do this. But like, I still think it's good, and like, this card's so good that I'm willing to put this card in my Shurima decks that even maybe have like 10 off-color cards or something. Out of cards, and just, you're gonna miss sometimes, but it's so good when you hit.
I agree. So wait, where did you want to put it? I missed that. Sorry.
I didn't even say where I wanted to put
okay,
it, but
okay.
I probably...
I'm in B tier because I think
I'm in B.
I think it's a B, yeah.
Okay. Noble?
Noble's in the bathroom, but he agrees.
Okay, very cool. I'm glad that you can speak for him. We got a 2-mana landmark here, Hibernating Rock Bear. It's got a countdown of 3, and it summons a 5/4 Grumpy Rock Bear. Yeah, there we go.
Grumpy Rock Bear.
When it comes up.
D.
Yeah, I mean, like, this is a D.
This card hasn't even been good in Expedition. When you like,
the reason this card would be good would be because of the synergies. I think clearly. So I do think that this card is actually worse in Expedition, like, comparatively, than it is in Constructed. The problem is that the Constructed deck is bad too. So like, it's fringe.
Kind of my problem is that in Expedition you can kind of do the thing, right? And I've seen someone go this, copied it twice, got a bunch of rock bears on like turn 4, and I was like, how am I ever beating this in Expedition of all places? Like, I can't even do anything. And then they just like, and then I looked up and realized they had no cards in their hand because their entire hand was 2-mana 5/4s that weren't 5/4s yet, and now finally were. And I was just like, well,
yeah, okay, D tier.
Okay, I think D.
I think this is a D.
All right.
Yeah, I just want to say, like, this isn't the payoff.
Yeah,
This ain't it.
this isn't.
This ain't it. This ain't the landmark you want to be copying.
Very true.
Yeah.
All right. Inner Sanctum, if I'm reading that correctly, is a 3-mana landmark with reputation that says I cost 0. Countdown 1. Create 2 lucky finds in hand.
So, have you guys seen this card in play?
Yep.
Yeah, the lead.
Yeah, quite a bit.
Yeah, I've just never ran into it, so I don't feel particularly I know people have played it, but I've not run into it at all.
I
So
think
I
the
don't
Lee
feel
Sin deck is begrudgingly better than I thought it was.
I think that deck is awful, but I didn't play it. I just played against it. And I guess I did play a couple games.
I don't think the deck is awful. I think it has a very specific place, and it's not on ladder. It's in a tournament lineup. It's like a meta call.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think that this card is good in that deck, and I think that this card should be a C.
I agree.
Yeah,
C.
right. At the end of the day, it can cost 0, though very rarely does in that deck, and makes 2 0-mana spells. That's kind of abusable.
Yeah.
very well.
All right. Now we got a real good one. Inspiring Marshal. It is a 4/6 for 5. When you summon another ally, granted +2/+0 this round. This card is
It's
real
5
good.
mana, right? It's 5 for 4.
Mana, 4/6. I think it is either an S or an A. That is my opinion.
I'd rather go A here.
I think that I'm willing to lobby for A as well. If it's S tier, I think it's probably at the bottom of S tier. Which I wouldn't hate, but I don't know. This card is so big, it kills people really good.
Yeah, S tier is already the top of A tier.
A 5-mana 4/6 by itself is just enough on rate that I think I'm fine. Just I can just play this card. It's not like one of those janky cards where it's like a 4-mana 1/7 or something like that.
Yeah.
It's just got a decent body, and yeah, I think A is where I'm going. Basically.
Okay, so I'm gonna make a case for S tier.
All right.
Okay.
And someone came in the chat and said it's a mid A. Here's my thing. Scouts, there is no card that I fear more than this card in Scouts. When they play this card, I am like, that is a card I need to get off the board or I will lose. Because when you have, any of the other payoff cards in the deck plus Inspiring Marshal, you are at risk. You've been put on notice. You will be killed in the next 2 turns if you don't kill them or kill it. There is no other card that does that. Azir doesn't even do that. This card is pretty insane, and this card isn't even a champion. It's a 4/6, so it's really hard to remove. It is honestly one of the cards that makes Shurima worth playing in the Scouts archetype, or in any aggressive Sand Soldier archetype, for that matter. So
I think that you just made an excellent argument for an A. That argument screams A to me. It's really, really good in its specific deck. Very good, very powerful, but it is not even close to the just generic level of very powerful that the other 2 cards in S tier are.
I kind of agree with that.
And that's kind of where I'm at.
I really think that this card is just as good as Bakai Sandspinner, if I'm going to be honest. If you look at the decks that Bakai Sandspinner is in, there's a reason why Bakai Sandspinner doesn't go in the Scouts deck, right? But it does go in most other Shurima decks. I don't know. I feel like the insane power level warrants.
Luckily, my friend, we have a mechanic for this.
Yeah.
I know. I don't know if you guys are hearing this, but I am absolutely considering just vetoing and putting it in an S.
That okay? Yeah.
I think this card's really good, and I think it's really right on the edge between S and A tier.
Okay,
basically.
you know what? I'll use my veto.
Fire it off.
I want someone to do it. I'm gonna veto. I'm gonna put Inspiring Marshal in S, and that's where we're gonna put it.
This is
So,
totally, yeah, really, really good.
all right, so we got a 3/3 for 3. Kahiri, I believe, is the pronunciation. Kahiri, the student. When she, I believe, is summoned, grant me +1/+1 if you have predicted this game.
So this thing's just good stat. I don't know. This is a C, right?
I think so.
I don't really have too much more to talk about here. It's got a fine body. It's got a reasonable effect if you're trying to do that thing, but it's not even a particularly good payoff.
Yeah, I think like on average, this card is as big as Loyal Badger Bear. Where is Loyal Badger Bear's the C?
Yeah,
like that's kind of yep.
All right. Yeah, I mean, I'm
I don't have a problem with any of that analysis.
There just
Sounds
like
good.
isn't quite enough predict. Like this card could be a role player in a deck with a little more predict, but like the predict spells you have to play besides exactly that other CT card. It's called like Chronomancer, Aspiring Chronomancer, I think.
yeah.
Okay, choice, but much better cards are out there. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I've seen this
So-
card put into play a couple times, and when it's a 4/4, it's kind of annoying for sure. But when it's a 3/3, it's you're playing a card below rate.
Yeah.
Okay, very cool. Well, we're going to play the next version of this student, who is now Kahiri the Returned. Is a 6 mana 4/6 or 4/4. Sorry, 6 mana 4/4 with Fearsome. When summoned, put a copy in your deck. Sorry, I have to read it in very small text now because I hadn't seen this card before. When you see me in a prediction, grant all copies of me everywhere +2/+2.
So this is like it's like supposed to be like the like engine payoff for the predict deck,
Yeah.
right? And it's like all right. So for starters, it's a 6 mana 4/4. So we have to see it one time for it to be even close to rate. And let's be honest here, if like a 6 mana 6/6 with Fearsome is probably still below rate. So like
It's big.
it's
Yeah.
big, but you could play like when you look at that card compared to like Sithria or whatever, and I guess Sithria is maybe the best example, so maybe that's a poor one, but like that's probably about rate for like a C. Like if this card was just a 6 mana 6/6 with Fearsome, I would say it's a C.
Very situational.
So
Yeah.
like this card must be a D at best, right?
I think I'm inclined to put it in a D as well because you need to really build your deck around it.
And then you have to get lucky.
Yeah, it's like, God. I mean, it's barely even.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't done the math, but like, how many games are you really going to see this in a predict 2 times in the game? Like, I mean, it can't be that. Like,
I
that
think
can't
it's about
be
1 in 3 to see it for 1 predict.
yeah, are you
That
going to
could
predict
be
6
correct.
times in a game? There's not that much support for this mechanic yet.
Yeah,
Wait,
I agree.
You're 1 in 3 to see a single card.
I think so, right? Because if you put 3 cards in your deck and then you're
Oh,
predicting
oh.
on turn 1 and you've got 3 copies in your deck, then you're
Oh, that makes
probably about 1 in 3, I imagine. I haven't done the math myself, but it sounds right.
Yeah, and it can't really be much higher than that.
Yeah.
So
So I think that this card is a D tier, and honestly, in my opinion, it borders on F. But I think
Yeah,
there's
it's
some use cases for this card, and I could see it
its
being powerful.
potential brings it to D tier, I think.
Yep.
All right. Payday, 2 mana, focus, create a lucky find in hand.
I mean, like, this card's so whatever, right? Like,
Yep.
I don't really want to play this card at all.
See,
I think Inner Sanctum is actually quite a bit better than it.
Oh, almost
Yeah.
certainly.
So
Oh,
I,
now I'm going to see. Okay,
Yeah, this one has to be at least a D.
yeah, I agree. I think there is exactly one deck that wants it. It's the Lee Sin deck. In terms of potential, any deck that would want Inner Sanctum could want this card, but I think this card is very solidly worse than Inner Sanctum, so pretty comfortable
Hard to
putting it in D. All right. Preservarium, 2 mana landmark. When I'm summoned, draw 1. Countdown 2, draw 1.
So this one's not too bad. This one is played a little bit better than I thought it would, to be honest.
I think this card is really
I think
good.
this card goes in A or B.
Many buffs
Yeah.
at the same time. Yeah.
I'm in a similar range. Someone try to sell me on something.
I'm gonna go for A. I think I'm gonna try and say A here.
All right, try and sell me.
It's always gonna get itself back. No, it replaces itself immediately. It turns on your landmark synergies for shaped stone, and then just helps things that care about landmarks do the landmark thing. I don't know if you want to make it into a Grumpy Rock Bear with your 4 mana 2/4. I don't know if you just want to level up your Talia. I don't know what you want to do, but
This card's the glue. It's the glue.
it's like exactly. It's like the bread and butter of like that archetype, and like you can just this card can never be bad in your deck. It can just be suboptimal, right?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, it's just not ever going to be that bad.
yeah, it's not. It replaces itself and then draws another card later.
Here's my argument for it being A. It is in the Sivir LeBlanc deck.
Yeah, all right.
There
sold.
you go. That's a deck I would never figure wants that.
Yeah, I'm in.
Okay, that's fair, but also like it costs 2 unit mana, which is a lot more than 2 mana. Like I know
No,
that it's
absolutely.
just like pretty clunky on tempo, but yeah, it's been surprisingly good in aggressive decks.
Yeah,
It just plays better than it reads, to be
It does.
honest.
Yeah, I think
really
I'm giving this an A because of the landmark synergies mostly.
Yep. Okay. Promising Future. Grant an allied landmark my countdown expiration activates twice. It's a slow mana slow 4/4 or sorry, slow 4 cost card.
Wait, it's just my countdown activates twice, right?
Yeah.
You give unallied landmark my countdown activates twice. So if you
Yeah,
want
so,
to, you can spend 4 mana to make Preservarium draw an extra card.
This is the only card so far that I haven't known what it did.
Okay, yeah, me neither.
I think that means I know where we should put it.
I agree.
Yeah. This
You think
card's
it's a
bad.
D? I'm curious, Hypnotic.
I think it's an F.
Where do you see this card seeing use? Because I can't.
Once
see
again,
use.
Arise is definitely better than this card.
Yeah, this
Okay,
card-
well, Arise is the best of the F tiers. Congratulations, Arise.
I agree. I think it is the best of the F tiers, but I think this card's an F. We just don't
Or
have
F,
any
yeah.
landmark. I just don't think we have any landmarks
Mm.
right now that are worth doing this for.
I mean, it can do the 8/8 from Lysandra.
yeah, that's bad.
That's bad. Yeah.
Really bad.
yeah.
Yeah. That is an F tier play.
Oh gosh.
Exactly where
I'm
it
not
belongs.
suggesting we do it. I'm just saying that's the biggest reward. Like that.
Yeah.
Like 8/8
That is why it belongs
you
in
get
F.
what you
Yep.
can get for your 4 mana.
Yep.
You just talked it into F.
Yep.
Thank you.
All right. Quicksand. It's a 3 mana burst. Give an enemy -4/-0, and take away its positive keywords.
If we're going off potential, I think this is S. I haven't seen this played a ton, but it's been played, and it's been good every time it's been played against me. And
I'm at least going to take it down to A, because I think there's a lot of times when this card it reads like Hush, and it plays like... not sure what
Poorly.
it plays like. Well, it doesn't play poorly. I just think it's not a
reads like
removal spell.
Doesn't
like Hush
play like
sometimes.
Hush sometimes. Yeah, but I think that this card is going to get better in a week and a half when people stop playing all the new cards and go back to playing Ezreal, which I
Yep.
very much predict is going to happen.
Yep.
Because Ezreal, like these Ezreal mid-range decks are just not seeing very much play right now, but boy do they seem pretty good. Right, but like nobody's playing them because there's all these new sweet decks.
Mhm.
But like I think when the meta gets a little bit more stabilized and a little bit less new expansion-y, that this card is going to start seeing more and more play because we're going to be reminded that there's just more and more targets when people start taking all the weird bad cards out of their deck. And maybe Shurima is going to have enough of an impact, or the Shurima decks are just not interested in Hush like the Targon decks are, because that's just not their plan, which is totally possible. But like, I do think that this card has not reached its potential yet.
I agree.
Agreed.
I think A. Personally, I'm a little lower in the card having watched to be played a lot. Like even coming from a perspective of like a very hardcore if you're a Shen player, but I think A is where I want to put it personally.
I think I agree.
I'm good with A.
Okay.
I think it's probably worse than Hush. Hush is clearly an S,
Mhm.
so it's probably an A.
Okay.
But we also have to think contextually based on a region, and I think that this card might be an S tier Shurima card. Like when I think of the best cards in Shurima,
Yeah.
it definitely is one of the ones on the radar. But
All right.
actually, I think it's solidly better than all of the other cards in A tier, and I think we should put it in S.
I disagree. And I think that because I think it's not always a removal spell, right? In fact, I think Exhaust is right about as good as Quicksand is, because Exhaust is actually a removal spell sometimes, whereas Quicksand is simply not.
All right, that's fair.
Yeah, I like A.
All right, cool.
Rampaging Bakai is a 5 mana 4/6 with Overwhelm. When you play it, if you have if you've slain, that's what it is. Slain 4+ units, then you strike the weakest, or what is it?
You strike. You just pick.
Oh, you just pick. That's pretty sick. I think I knew that already, but
this is another card that I was higher on before I got to play with it. It just reads so good to me. This card just reads so good. It's 5 mana, 4/6. It's got Overwhelm. It fights a thing when it enters. Like,
it's fighting a lot of good things for its slot. Is the problem? That's what I've found, at least.
That's really exactly the problem I ran into as well. It's like, man, the 5-drops in this region are really good, and I still think this card's good, but it just like somehow is like the worst of them. Basically, I think
Rune Runner goes in its slot almost every time.
Inspiring Marshal is clearly better in that its deck. Like, the Shurima deck that wants this, I feel like doesn't really exist because it's just not as aggressive as the other options. And Shurima has not been particularly good, like mid-rangey.
So do we think we want to put it in A tier because of its potential? Because we were just talking about how much potential it has to be very powerful, or do you think it belongs in B?
I think it belongs in B because I think that it gets overshadowed a lot of the time. I think there's a reason why we haven't seen it in a lot of decks so far. But in terms of potential, I guess that might bump it up to A. So
I actually think it should be in B tier. Like, I think that it is not as good as these other cards, and it has the potential to be better, but like, there's just the fact of the matter is that it's fighting for its slot with a lot of other cards in this region. And they're really good, and you can't really ignore that context.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I think I would put it in B.
I agree. It's like kind of close to an A, but it's a B.
Yeah, it's been very good. It's also contextually really good. Like, if everyone's playing Ezreal and Twisted Fate, like, this card is really good at killing Ezreal and Twisted Fate. Not very good at killing
For sure.
Like, it does.
Slaying 4 is harder than it feels a decent amount of the time.
Especially slaying 4 by turn 5, which is really when you want to be playing this card. Which is why I think you see it a lot in SI decks, like the SI Shurima decks. But it's not perfectly at home there either.
It also really competes with Kindred in that slot because it does.
That's the problem. It plays so well with Kindred, but like, that's a lot of 5-drops. So
yeah, exactly. The fact that this card really got hurt by the context around it. I think that if this card was just printed in Freljord in the base game, it would have been like insane.
I agree. So 7 mana. 7 mana 6/6 Raz Bloodmane. It's a fearsome that has attack. Give enemies -2/-0 this round.
D.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's just a little too expensive, and it just isn't really what the region wants to do.
Your 7-drop has to do a lot to be playable in Constructed Legends Runeterra.
It's rough because I think that this attack is like, it's very powerful, right? Yeah, it is very powerful. I've never seen the card played either, Berrymancer. I agree.
Yeah, exactly.
But
like,
it's
7 mana.
It's just not quite there. Yeah.
Yeah, compare to Cythria and get back to me.
Yeah, exactly.
With Cythria.
What is this card? It's
admittedly, Cythria is like an A or an S, so like, that's pretty unfair.
It's sorry, I'm just muting them for a sec. It's a 7 mana 6/6 with fearsome that when you attack, you give them enemies -2/-0. Yeah, so D tier, is that?
Yeah, I think D tier.
Okay.
I'm good with that.
Very B.
All right, Ricochet, 6 mana slow spell. Its reputation, I cost 3, and you deal 1 damage to a random enemy or the Nexus 5 times.
I'm sorry, Nico. I think we have to put the second Sivir themed card right down there with the first.
I agree.
Yeah.
I'm not even happy when this is Sivir's champ spell, usually, unfortunately.
No,
it's pretty. It feels pretty bad.
This card is just the second Sivir. It is a blank until then.
Oops. Yep. All right, well.
It doesn't level her particularly.
No, it's just bad.
We can do some fun things with Funsmith.
It's fine. Once we get to Sivir, she's gonna be good. Okay, she'll be good.
True.
Also, I think this card is really good if you have kegs, right? Because this does interact how you think it would.
I do believe so.
It does, damage 5 times. Yeah, that'd be really good. But
yeah, it's like a really big make it rain.
I wonder if that's enough to like try to put a deck together. Probably not, but
No,
I don't think so. Because like the 3 mana Make It Rain that hits 3 random things is like already just not that good. So like,
But this card's 3 mana sometimes too.
yeah, it is, but not really in that deck. Like,
Yeah.
what are the 5-power creatures you're putting in your deck?
Okay,
with
but can't we
Can't
we put like Shurima Pirates together with the 2 mana 3/2 that makes all the 1-drops +1/+0 if you've plundered?
You could play that deck, and I would not put this card in it.
Okay, well,
I would
agree.
make it in that deck maybe. Like your opponent has to have 5 things to be able to hit. Like,
No, it just hits their face
yeah, but
all
like,
of the time.
All
Yeah,
right, I want to
like,
move on so that we can stop making
whatever.
me depressed.
Yeah.
Rite of Calling, 0 mana. Kill an ally or destroy one of your mana crystals to draw a champion. Guess what? It's an S, in my opinion.
yes, 100% agreed.
That's interesting.
S.
Yep.
Yeah, I think this card's an S, almost for sure.
You put it in your SI Shurima decks, and then you kill your 2 mana 1/1 that makes a 4/3 on turn 2, and you've drawn your champion, and you now have a very above rate card on the board. It's very
And if we
scary.
figure out how to make having less mana crystals really good, then this is it. This is the
Yep.
card that enables that the best.
It's pretty unfortunate that this is not like Magic where you can like float a mana.
Yeah.
You have to spend the mana, then play this on the destroyed mana. You can't be like, I'm going to find my Fiora on turn 3 with this card. It just doesn't work unless you're killing a follower.
To be
Which
honest,
is kind of unfortunate and kind of awkward, but doesn't really matter.
it's so rarely relevant. You're almost always killing like a 1/1 with it.
Yeah.
And, like
it's
if they
true.
want to, the thing is that so many times you get put. It's not really the Abyss, but it's like it's really rough because they play it. You know, targeting a 1/1. You're like, do I kill the 1/1 like
Big shot cards? Ugh.
and make like just a horrible mana efficient play because they really don't care about the 1/1 anyway.
Yeah, because it's 0 mana. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and also Barrymancer's right, destroying a mana gem doesn't matter past turn 7 or 8 usually anyway.
Absolutely.
And
And the
definitely doesn't
champions
matter after
do.
turn 10.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
This card's
We've got it in S. I think that's correct. So, Rite of Dominance. It is a 4 mana fast spell. Kill an ally or destroy one of your mana gems to give all enemies -2/-0 this round.
this card is not that.
No.
This one is just like
This card really matters when its follower gets mystic shotted. That's such a blowout.
yeah, this one can lead to some real blowouts and on your end.
On your end and on their end, let's be fair to it.
Yeah, like it can lead to some real blowouts on their end too. But man, -2, -0, it's 4 mana.
Yes.
Is that it? Come on.
Yeah, okay. So are we putting this in F? Because I think it's
directly below it on this screen is a much better way to give your opponent's units -2/-0.
putting a lot of spells in this F category, by the way.
That's probably about right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this card's an F.
That's another.
So
I think as Magic players, we have a tendency to undervalue spells in general because they're so much more expensive. So they read in this game, so they read a lot worse. Do think that this is where this card belongs. I just say that that's kind of the reason. And also spells just in general in this game, especially slow spells, are very hit or miss.
Okay. Yeah.
If we need other card types in the F tier, I'd be happy to go back to Ancient Preparation.
Yeah. So you know the funny part is that if you're looking at slow spells, Rite of Calling is the only one so far that has escaped the F tier.
That's actually hilarious.
Yep. We got 5 slow spells in the F tier, and we got 1 Rite of Calling in the S tier.
They got one right.
Guess what? This one costs 0 mana.
Yeah, that's part of it.
Yeah. Okay. So, moving on. Here's a spell that is very good, and it is a 4 mana spell that is fast. It's called Rite of Negation. You kill an ally or destroy one of your mana gems to
S.
to negate.
S.
A
Yeah,
windmill
it's-
slam this into S tier.
Yeah, I mean,
Interesting.
I think this is arguably the easiest S
Interesting.
in
I
the
don't think
whole
argument.
set.
I think this is easily the easiest.
you could make an argument for A, and I want to hear Noble's argument here.
Yeah, go for it.
I really think so this card has underperformed, I think. It is not, unlike Rite of Calling, it is not letting you kill your units at will. Like, it does, but it costs 4 mana and the cards do it. Don't do that. It has blowout potential when you're killing a unit. Killing a mana gem is almost always the mode on this card. It's just like, you really don't want your counterspell getting blown out, and you're usually setting up for some kind of lethal. It's very good. It's not like a 3 of slam dunk like a lot of these other cards are. I'm arguing against myself a little here. It's very, very powerful effect to have available in a region. Very, very important. But I don't know. It has just felt a little more A to me. I don't know how to describe that.
One singular note I will say is that it is not a card you blanket slam in all Shurima decks. I have seen this thing where people put it in their like Kindred Nasus deck or whatever, or not Kindred. They put it in their like Nasus Thresh deck. That's what I'm talking about. And like it's like a controlling shell, and yeah, they do have some stuff to sacrifice to it, but when you sacrifice, like when you sack a mana gem to it on like turn 6 or whatever, you feel that you definitely feel.
Yeah, you really need to not feel that because you're killing your opponent.
Yes. So it's got to be S tier, I think, because it is giving this kind of effect to aggro decks, which is not something they've ever had before, and completely changes the game.
It's not an aggro region.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's got to be an S, but I think it's not just a windmill slam in every deck. But then again, the rest of our S's aren't either.
Through a Rite of Calling and the Marshal, Inspiring Marshal.
Yeah.
So that's really fine, yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I agree.
Rock Hopper. It's a 3/1 for 2 that when it's summoned, you create a Rolling Sands.
A plus Rock Hopper.
I want to put this in S.
Okay. Can we get an explanation as to why? Because I'm not inclined to put it in S, but it is good.
It's just because it's like, it's never. I don't know. This feels like this card's never really going to be bad. It's always very disruptive. Have you ever?
It is.
You've played against it, I'm sure.
Yeah, no, it's certainly annoying, especially playing like Fiora Shen or something. And playing like Sivir or LeBlanc is really annoying into it too, right?
Yeah,
so I get it.
It's really good.
I'm inclined not to say it's S, but I guess maybe it is though.
My inclination is that this is an S, and it's probably like at the bottom of S or whatever, bottom of S, top of A. But like this is just a really efficient 2-drop. The region is aggressive. Like this card really ties together a lot of the region's plans in a very cohesive way, and is going to be a part of many decks because of it.
That's true. That's a really good point.
Yeah. Super well designed. It's an enabler. It's a beatdown. It can be just a 3 damage removal spell, basically.
Yeah. To me, it's kind of like Preservarium in that it's the glue, except it's clearly better.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm in for all.
I like that explanation.
All right, you got me.
I think I have a good amount of this card with Ice Shards and Withering Whales. But that's not the end of the world for them.
Yeah,
like
you're usually going to hit 3 at least first.
Also, if you're like getting your Lysandra vulnerable, it's like kind of annoying too, right?
Yeah, a lot of the time. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
so,
totally.
Okay. Rune Runner. It's a 5 mana, 6/4 with Overwhelm and Spell Shield.
There's a lot to say about this card.
Yep.
And it starts with the letter S.
I disagree.
Ooh, interesting. Fun.
I think it's not an S. Probably. It's really powerful. Mm-hmm. But it just, like, once again, I think that the region has just kind of, like, it hasn't been out for that long, but I think that the region is kind of moving away from 5 mana 6/4 tramplers and moving towards rock hoppers. And, like, they're both very good and kind of, like, on the scale or whatever. But, like, most of these decks are, like, looking for more aggressive things, not more 5-drops.
I think when this region came out, everyone looked at this card and was like, holy shit. Like, we have never seen spell shields on this efficient of a body before. And that's true. But at the same time, 4 toughness is 4 toughness. And that means it gets blocked by a lot of stuff. And it also means that if you're the one getting beat down, this card sucks really bad.
Yeah.
I've had that happen multiple times, and it was not pretty and not fun, and it just feels really awful.
I mean, it still blocks. Like, you're having to be getting beat down by some pretty impressive creatures for this not to eat one of them.
Right, but it's not an efficient play. It's a 5-mana blocker, right? 5-mana blocker is not where you want to be. And, yeah, given, it can do its job very well. I'm not saying it's bad. It's good. It's very good. But...
you think Inspiring Marshal is better than this card because Like, if their stat lines were switched, it might be different.
Let me put it this way. I think Aspiring Marshal is better than Rune Runner because when they play Aspiring Marshal, I'm like, I need to get that off the board. And when they play Rune Runner, I'm like, I can survive a few turns.
I can't get that off the board because it...
No, okay, here's where I think you're mixing it up. Is if, like, you're looking at it from the perspective of, like, this is a... Like, if you're playing it against it as a control deck, then yeah. And I think it's really good against control decks. And I don't think it's very good against aggro decks.
That's fair, but I mean, we mostly want to be playing this in aggro decks. So, like...
Right, but it's like slower aggro
is good in the aggro mirror because you've been trading off resources and then you end up with a 6/4. Like, don't put this card in your mid-range deck. Like, I think this is such a good curve chopper. Very hard to beat. Like, I run a lot of games, and this was very early in the patch, of just, like, Rune Runner into Rune Runner. And, like, or Sivir into Rune Runner, or, you know, Renekton into Rune Runner. Just being very, very hard to deal with that amount of power that's that hard to block.
If you'll disagree, that's totally fine. I'm not the be-all, end-all.
I'm just saying that's what makes me want to make this card S.
I got you. I'm after playing this card about 20 to 25 games, I'm just a little lower on it because I think spending 5 mana for a beat stick, it feels like a little bit like the format has moved a little bit away from paying that much mana, but you know,
that's fair.
Maybe that's incorrect.
This one's really hard. My inclination is that this card was an S. But like I tend to agree that I think it is played a little bit worse than I thought it would, which makes me move it to A. Basically, is where I think I land on this card. Like, it's just a little bit worse than I want it to be in just a few too many situations, which I don't think is true of the other S's that we have right now.
Yeah.
But it's certainly around there. It's very good.
Okay. I'll concede the A, but I still kind of think I want to lean more towards S, but I'm not going to fight the A vote here.
I guess this is kind of a better card in a vacuum than Inspiring Marshal. Like, that card is so good in the deck that it's good in, and I think that this card is much better in a larger variety of decks. And maybe that's crazy, and I haven't seen Inspiring Marshal play enough. Because, spoiler alert, it's not that many times. Because I haven't played that deck when it was playing Marshal, and I haven't played again. And when I played against it recently, I've not run into it a ton. But yeah, I don't know.
Up to y'all. I mean, I want to put it in A. That's my vote.
I'll go with A.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, that's fine.
All right. You got a veto for this reason. Just putting that out there. So moving on. 2 mana slow spell.
I take my veto for moving a Rise around at the end there.
Okay.
Yeah.
2 mana, Ruinous Path. It's a slow spell. You draw 1 card, and if you have slain a unit this round, you drain 2 from the enemy nexus.
I thought this card was a D, and then it killed me like 3 times.
Oh, this card I think is probably an S.
S.
An S? You're insane.
Wow.
What?
No way.
I think this card's amazing.
Oh my gosh.
We're talking about Ruinous Path, right?
Yeah, Ruinous Path.
Yeah.
Does it get it? Does it get the which part's up front? Is it the draw card? Or the
draw card's up front.
Oh, that's
Draw
so.
card up front.
Draw card being up front is so bad.
This is. I mean,
it's just a 3. You're playing like a 37 card deck. It's just reach. It's
2 mana is not free to draw 1 card. Let me.
It is for the deck. Okay, it is for Endure Aggro. It is for the like LeBlanc Sivir deck. It is for it is for the hyper aggressive deck with a super low curve, or it's like for the Azir Burn deck. Like it's just damage and replaces it
really well to Decimate. To be fair,
it's just
it's clearly
it's literally a Mystic Shot that says draw a card in every aggro deck.
And
like,
game to life.
And yeah, for the mirror, like that's the least relevant part of it in my opinion. But like this card's really good.
It's complete slander to say that this is an S. It's
Slander.
so slander. This is
absolutely slander.
like I'll concede that it might be better than I think it is, but S. I don't know about that, man. Write a calling, write a negation, Bakai Sand Center, like, whew. You're up there with some real fierce competition. S
It is,
for
and I
Slam,
think this card is it's not that okay. I think I'm looking at A, and I'm like, this card is way better.
Really?
Or on, than all these A cards.
I mean, we got to look
not
at potential.
Way better than
potential
let's say
as well.
not. Okay,
Right.
sure. And I think that this card's potential is huge because anytime any aggressive deck comes out of Shurima, at all, ever, 3 of easy. This card.
Is this
Wow.
card
Right away.
I've seen it as a 0 of in all of the Shurima aggro decks so far. Like literally a 0 of.
Yeah, I haven't loved the decks that this card has been in.
I mean, I've had it played against me multiple times, and I died to it once, and then the other times I was like, cool, you spent 2 mana to do nothing.
It was really hard to race a combination of this card and Doom Beasts and Stalking Shadows against against SI deck.
Yeah, the SI deck does seem pretty solid.
I think
for it
it's
to be in.
most at its home in those like SI decks or whatever, but like mostly in Endure where like once you get to like turn 4 or 5, your mana really doesn't matter, but you're still gonna pay the tax when you draw this in your opening hand and can't have this explosive as an early start.
I don't think we can call that like Endure because it's not playing Endure. It's playing Shurima.
I'm gonna keep calling it Endure.
It's Endure aggro.
Look, this card's a B to me. That's my final vote.
I'm saying S, and
Right.
you two and Alex and Noble, you guys can help me out, meet in the middle, and if it goes in A, I might veto it later up to S.
Oh my god, he's actually gonna use his veto.
I might not. We might have a much more heinous call down
See,
the
I
line.
put this system together before I assumed he was gonna be here. And
Yeah.
that clearly that was an oversight.
I'll say A and let Alex make the tiebreaker.
Okay.
I think I'm with Nico here. I think this card's a B.
All right,
No,
I'm
now
fine
it's
with that.
definitely getting vetoed. So where does that put it in our system? I think it does drag it to, unless we're
B.
rounding up.
B is fine. No, B is fine.
Okay, we're putting it in B, and we're gonna make Hugh use his veto if he really wants to, I guess. So
We're making him have it.
He's deep in the tank right now.
well, you can wait until later. I used mine
I know,
right away 'cause I wanted to.
I'm gonna
but-
wait until later. I
Yeah.
gotta think about
Gotta
All
that.
make
right,
sure
we got Ruthless Predator.
Goes down.
We got Ruthless Predator. It's a 2-mana burst spell. Grant an ally +2/+0 and an enemy vulnerable this round.
D.
D?
I originally thought it was a D as well, but I gotta say I've come up on it a little bit.
Yeah.
I also thought this card was a D, and now everyone's cutting exhaust for it. And I really think that it's at least a B.
Wow.
I don't think it's good. I honestly don't think it's good, but I guess I was about to say out loud that many people can't be wrong, but they absolutely can be.
Absolutely can be wrong.
Yeah, okay. Let's go with C for this one.
Yeah, I think this card is significantly better than I thought it would be when I read it.
Mhm.
And I think that it is not necessarily a mistake to play this card in your deck instead of exhaust.
It
It's
is
not
much more
necessarily-
flexible than exhaust, I have to say.
Yeah, which I
'Cause
would
it's
have
burst speed.
certainly would have said before the set dropped.
Yes.
I think that it's better than a C. Like when I look at these C's, like I think that it is better than them.
Wandering Venser says, unlike our last candidate, this one at least has text.
Yeah. Yes, I agree. This
Okay. This is why I think it's a D. The reason I think it is a D
Okay.
and not a C, I'd be okay with C if this wasn't a champ spell. I
Wait,
don't
how
wanna
does that
put this-
impact it at all?
I don't
Oh,
want to
you're
put this
saying
in a deck.
because
No, people are putting 3 copies of this in their deck instead of exhaust in their renekton decks.
I
And
don't.
good for them. They can have their fun, and I think they're wrong.
That is actually fair because you're almost always putting this in a Renekton deck. That
Yeah.
being said, I think the potential of the cards still at least makes it to C.
It also very notably, like buffing power is often better than negating power because it gets in for damage. It also is very good with overwhelm, obviously, and it gets like 3/3s up to triggering reputation.
Yeah, I think that I'm really not willing to put this card into D tier. Like when I look at D tier, I see like absolutely unplayable cards that I would like jinx emote when my opponent put into play. most of the time. And like when my opponent's killing me with Ruthless Predator, it's not. That isn't that.
I will say, in terms of the subtracting power, I have exhausted my opponent's Ezreal a few times, and having that flexibility felt nice. I'm not sure how that impacts Ruthless Predator, but in terms of
their Ezreal.
I think
what do you mean?
I think that exhaust.
Like they play Ezreal, and then I play like exhaust because I really didn't want my unit to die.
Yeah.
I think that exhaust is better than this card.
I agree.
But I think that it's at least a C and maybe a B.
Oof.
I'm okay with C.
I'm okay with C as well.
I am okay with C. I still think it's a. I don't want to put it. I just don't want to put this card in my deck. I don't want to put copies of it.
I would like you to veto this to a D so that you don't veto Ruinous Path to an S later. But if you, if you.
I'm not going to use my veto on this. I know that. Let's put it in C and be done with it.
I'm not really excited to put any of the cards in C tier in my deck, really. So
I think it's the perfect place for it.
At least that 2-drop is like. I'm beginning to think this 2-drop is better than the C tier.
Which
the one that
Chronomancer? Yeah, I'm starting to think that too. I'm looking at all these other cards.
I mean, I don't know what you guys were doing when you talked this ancient preparations up into C tier. That's all I'm saying.
I think you're fucking crazy.
I think
move on.
Yeah. Anyway, Psy Scout. It's a 3-mana 2/4. You play it and you predict. Oh, I forgot this one predicts actually. If you see a landmark, you grant it elusive.
D.
Yeah.
It's bad. I think this card's real bad. It's not as bad as the F cards, and there's no way I'm putting this in any deck ever in a million years. This is a D.
Yeah, I thought this card could maybe be good before I started playing because I still had some hope for the like Talia thing, and I figured it would be kind of aggressive. And like even if it wasn't that aggressive, like 2/4 is pretty good stat line for like the landmark thing if we're trying to like combo off on turn 5 or whatever and we don't want to die. But like none of that stuff has gotten there at all.
This card is so close to being a C tier card in my opinion.
Yeah,
it's so close, but it's just not quite. Like if Talia was better, if Talia was slightly better, I almost feel like this would be a C tier card, but it's just not.
Definitely clearly worse than a 2-drop, so we can just put it in D and move on.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, okay. Sand Spit. It is a landmark. It's got countdown 2. You summon a Grumpy Rock Bear. Then, if you've summoned, what is it? If you've summoned, how many landmarks? Is it 4+ landmarks this game?
3. I think it's 3.
3+ landmarks this game. You grant the strongest ally +2/+2, and it is a 4-cost card.
We're getting into some real stinkers here.
I'm gonna be honest. I think this card is like not that bad. I think this card is like definitely better than Hibernating Rock Bear, right? I mean, I guess it's 4 cost. Comes out on 6 turn. Jeez. Can they have made this like
4 mana on this card?
Can they have made this slightly
This is the same amount of mana as the Veiled Temple.
Yeah, that's true actually.
This is an F.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is an F. That's just not like
at all.
This card is completely indefensible. Like there's nothing about this card that is good.
You get +2/+2. Who? That needs to be like +6/+6.
Okay.
I'm serious. But that's I think where I would play this card.
Maybe.
Yeah.
God, maybe. Oh, Jesus.
When you compare it to the Veiled Temple, like the Veiled Temple's giving like at least +4/+4 every game. Like
the Veiled Temple is a little bit high
very
on
good.
the end.
I mean, that card's like an S or whatever. So.
That card's probably an S, right? At least, but like for me to even consider it, right? Like it's got to be at least in the conversation there. And Veiled Temple has a lot more utility, and that's only giving like +4/+4 every game. So like for me to forgo that utility, even like
this card has to be a D then, right? Is that where we're going with this?
I think this card's probably an F.
Oh, wow.
I think it's an F.
I think this card is wildly unplayable.
Okay. Yeah, I think you're right. I don't know. Maybe I'm being colored by the fact that I like got beat by it once in the early. I saw it. It's the only time I saw it played, and I just got like absolutely smashed by it. But I think that it was not this card beating me.
I've 0%.
I've never seen it in play, so if it played reasonably,
it just made a 7. So one thing I will say is that in the deck that you put it in, it is certainly always going to have the. Is it really 3+? It looks like 4+, but I can't read it from here.
What's the title? What's the card? I'll just...
Salt Spit. Yeah, it's 4+. It's 4+. Even then, I will say by the time this is going off, you almost always have the 4+ landmarks.
That's true.
I guess this will work. Let's make it slightly.
Because we're playing other good cards.
Yes, I mean generally, yeah. So then like on turn 6, you're making a 7/6 that costs 4 mana. Now, given that's like delayed, I'm not saying it's good, but like I think it plays a little bit better than it looks, is what I'm saying.
I've never seen it in play. So if you have any amount of context with that, and you think that it's a D, then I'm willing to hear that.
Yeah, I have one thing of context. Am I willing to say that it is a D tier card? It's certainly better in Ascendant's Rise, and I think it's better in Ricochet. I think it actually does have a use case, so I would be willing to put it in D tier.
All right, that's fair. That's fine.
Okay. 8 mana, 8/5. Sanctum Conservator. It is a fearsome card. On its play, if you have slain 13 units this game, kill all enemy followers, then summon a copy of me.
13. What a number.
Oops.
Yeah, 13 is a whole lot.
13 is a whole lot, and I think that...
That's more than half as many cards as you need to flip TF.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm not gonna go down that road and try to compare this 8 mana card to TF. But
this just like isn't what Shurima the region has been about. Like,
well,
not to
what
say
does
this
NASA start as a 2/2? NASA starts as a 2/2 because I'm comparing that to like how many I've seen at max, and Nasus is a 13. I think. I don't think I've ever seen a larger Nasus.
I've never seen Nasus bigger than 13, and that's only
It's
11.
Still not enough. Yeah.
I've seen Nasus get to 18.
Okay.
That being said, I usually see Nasus get to 7.
Right.
I absolutely think this card's an F.
Nasus almost always gets to 10 in my opinion, but or in my experience. But then again, we might be playing wildly different decks. I agree this card is an F. I think it is almost always an 8 mana 8/5.
I agree.
Fearsome. Instead of playing this card, just play Ruination. You don't have to kill 13 units to do it or anything. Yeah, I mean, it's a one-sided Ruination, but...
There you go. It's really good with the Ruination.
Yes.
Maybe this card could see play in like some Karma Shurima decks down the line.
Yeah, like as very hard control. Like I don't think you want to end up being in Shurima for that, so this card wouldn't be good. But like late in the game when your Wraths are this instead of Ruination, like this card is way better than Ruination.
And this card just compares so poorly to like Karina.
Yeah.
Which is basically the same text, except it always happens. And it's in a region that's better for it. Like, I'm just not going to play.
That's fair. All right. So we've got a 4 mana 3/5 named Sandcrafter here. Attack, summon a attacking Sand Soldier.
This card is not seeing play in that Scouts deck, right?
No.
Yeah. This one looks pretty powerful on its face. It's a lot of stats, but it just didn't get there.
Yeah, I agree.
I think this one's a C. Like, it's a totally fine card, but it's just not quite good enough for Constructed, on average.
Yeah, looking at the other C cards, I think that is probably correct.
Yeah.
It's not embarrassing if you play it, I think, and it probably plays a pretty solid role. But generally, there are better cards to play.
It's got good stats. Like it attacks and does a thing that's profitable, but like there's just better things to be playing in its spot, basically.
Yeah, it's like often 5 stats, 5/5 of stats on offense. Like that's quite good.
Yeah.
But like,
oh well.
All right, so we've got a 6/6 for 12 mana. Sandstone Chimera. Reduce my cost for 1 each time an ally has attacked this game.
This card like actually does have some reasonable potential.
I don't hate putting this in B, but I'd rather put it in C.
Ooh, I don't think it's...
How much do you want this to cost before you want it to play it?
4.
I was going to say 5.
Well, see,
I'm not going to be happy playing this card instead of Inspiring Marshal. So, like,
Yes.
it definitely needs to be less than 5.
I think 4 is where I'd
That's
start
fair.
to be happy with it. And how fast are we doing that?
Yeah, and I'd really only be happy. Like, yeah, realistically, the thing too is that like it's 12, and you have to attack. Like, attacking with 12 creatures is not easy.
Well, let's say you
Like,
got to attack with 8 creatures to make this a playable card under
Yeah.
those circumstances. Attacking
And
with
all-
8 creatures, I believe you do get the attacks from Sand Soldiers. That'd be a very weird design.
Yeah,
if it
You
did.
do. You do.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a vanilla 6/6 at that point, which is still, I mean, it's good for stats, but I'm trying to like put together in my mind space how you would attack with 8 creatures by like turn 4, and it's really
Just
hard.
Yeah, just never. Like, I don't know. Even at 4 mana,
Also,
Wait,
like-
does this really not have a keyword?
No keywords.
it's just a vanilla 6.
They
Say
don't
vanilla
even. Oh,
6/6.
this doesn't this cycle always have a keyword?
It usually has a keyword, yeah.
Yeah, this one just doesn't for whatever reason.
I honestly wouldn't be surprised if this gets a keyword added later, and then it's like reasonable to play this because it has overwhelm or whatever.
Yeah.
Also, how many times are you attacking with like 9 units and your opponent isn't dead? Like a reasonable
Yeah,
amount.
exactly.
Like, is a 3 mana 6/6 going to win you that game? Like, who knows?
All right. I want to put this one in D tier. That's my own personal opinion. How do we feel
I
about that?
Deal.
I'm
You?
into
I know
that.
you were a little higher. Okay.
No. I thought I had a keyword just because it
Gotcha.
was part of the
Yeah.
cycle. Like,
If I had like any keyword, I'd be putting it in C tier probably.
All right. 5.
Elusive would be nice.
Well, okay. I mean that then we'd be talking about maybe A or S, but unfortunately no. 5 mana landmark called Sandswept Tomb. When allies attack, summon an attacking Sandstone Charger. I think that's what it's called. Sandstone Charger. It's a 5/2 with elusive.
Right?
no, wait, no, it doesn't. It doesn't have elusive, does it?
No,
No,
I didn't mean
no.
elusive. I meant
Ephemeral.
Ephemeral.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. So it's a 5 mana
Okay.
landmark summons a 5/2 ephemeral when you attack.
There we go. That's a lot worse
Yeah.
than elusive.
Barrymancer says, "Veto it, Hugh. Believe in yourself about Sandstone Chimera." Yeah, I mean, Sandswept Tomb. It's like a much worse version of Emperor's Dais, right?
Much worse, yeah.
Does this have a use case?
I mean, attacking with a 5/2, like 5/2 is pretty big. It's
It is.
It's gonna trigger your reputation. So
Mhm.
like that's something already. I think that this card at minimum has a use case.
There's probably some interesting builds of the Scouts deck with this card, right? Like scouting with this card seems pretty powerful.
What does it do? It's 3 mana? It's 5 mana.
It's a 5. Yeah, it's 5 mana. It's a lot, but like a 5 mana to every time you attack, you create a 5/2 ephemeral to attack with.
Cool. I was rechecking because I thought I saw that it cost 3 mana, and I was like, okay, there's no way that this card does what I think it does for 3 mana. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I think this card is potentially playable in decks. I don't know. It's probably like a C.
I agree. I think it is actually a C. I mean, I think this card it's at least intriguing.
Yeah, at least intriguing. This could easily be the biggest bait card here. This could be the biggest bait C. Like all these other C's are very safe
Yes.
C's. But like this one could be the hidden F in disguise, but I think it's probably a C.
All right. Yeah, I'm comfortable putting it as C. Okay, we got a 1 mana card. It's a burst spell. It's Shaped Stone. It gives an ally +1/+1 this round, and if you've summoned a landmark this game, give it +3/+1 instead.
All right, I thought that this card's much better than I thought it would be.
Yes.
Is where I will say here. Like I thought that this card was just going to be Radiant Strike every time, and like that card's awful. So why would we play this? Turns out it's better than that by a pretty substantial margin.
Yeah, quite a substantial margin.
It's also the only Shurima or Noxus card. It's the only efficient Shurima or Noxus card that gives toughness as a combat trick, which is super relevant.
Yeah, very.
This card is an S. That's where I'm at.
Okay.
I was gonna. Oh, I don't think it's an S.
I've come down off of... I used to think it was an S. Actually, when I was prospecting, putting this tier list together, I was like, Shape Stone is probably an S, right? And then I played with it some more, and I was like, it's not quite an S. I think it's an A. I think it's an A.
So what?
I like
It's
Mark of the Isles did what this card does, worse, and got nerfed.
Yeah. But Mark of the Isles making something elusive is good in SI, or can be good. Not elusive, I keep saying elusive, I mean ephemeral. Making something ephemeral can actually be good in SI, or it doesn't matter nearly as much, whereas...
That was pretty rare. It was often just like 3 to the face. Like, this card is 3 to the face, and that's really good.
It's like conditional 3 to the face, but yes.
Hitting them, very good.
Yeah, I do not think that this card is better than Mark of the Isles was. Or even, like... Mark of the Isles was too good then. Was too good at its current rate, because it was just always +3/+3. Like,
yeah.
And this is not always +3/+1. Like, how many landmarks can you really put in your deck that you're putting Shapestone in your aggressive Shapestone deck where you want this to just be like 3 to the face?
Yep.
It can't be that many.
A good amount. I mean, in our A and S tier, we have 3 cards that you could reasonably put in an aggressive deck that are landmarks.
Yeah.
Yes.
But that's not. Yeah, but that's not going to be every game, right? Like, even if you have all 9,
because you have until like turn 5 or 6 to do that.
Okay, but hold on though, because in the Sivir Noxus deck, right? You're not you only play the Emperor's Dais in the Sand Soldiers deck, right? So in the Sand Soldiers deck, yes, that is true. But personally, I don't really like Rockhopper's fine in that deck, but you don't really want to run that. There's better options in general. Then in the Sivir Noxus deck, yeah, you could play Rockhopper, but once again, there's kind of better options, but you generally do play that. But you certainly don't play Emperor's Dais, and you don't really want to be playing Preservarium on turn 2. So
I don't want to cast this card on turn 2.
I mean, no, for sure, but like,
kill my opponent.
You generally cast Preservarium a lot later in the game. I mean, you can cast it early, I suppose.
This card being good is the reason people are playing this like Hourglass card that we were crapping on. What's it called? Ancient Dice?
Ancient Hourglass?
No.
Or the
1-mana one.
Ancient Preparations?
Yeah.
Yes, Ancient Preparations,
yeah.
But like, if you have to play Ancient Preparations in your deck to make Shapestone good, you're a little less happy to play Shapestone, right?
That's fair. It's really impressed me.
It impressed me a lot when I was playing against it, and then I played with it, and I was slightly less impressed, which often is how it goes.
Also, we just mentioned like the 2 best Shurima decks, and both said that we didn't want to play Rockhopper in them. Just gonna note that.
Well, it's just like, I mean, it's very solid, and it's honestly like the reason that I personally don't even want Rockhopper in S. So just putting that one out there. So perhaps that's where my own opinion came from. But
this is fair. I could be talked up to S, but I'm leaning A. Like,
I like it as well.
It's just so hard to make combat tricks. Like, a combat trick being S tier has to be like really, really pushed.
I'd put Sharpsight in S tier.
I also would.
Yeah, I would put Sharpsight in S tier, and I do not think this card is as good as Sharpsight.
I agree. It is almost Sharpsight, but not quite.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. Like the like S tier combat tricks are like a Sharpsight or whatever, and like I just don't think it's quite there.
All right.
All right, we've got Siphoning Strike, a card that I was originally really high on and am less now. It's a 5-mana slow spell. An ally strikes a enemy, and if it dies, grant all allied champions everywhere +2/+2.
All right, team. Where do the slow spells go?
This is not an F. This is not an F.
It's not an F. It's not even a D. I think it's a C.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. I think this is a pretty solid C. It's a medium removal spell.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's
kind of like
when people cast it as Nasus champ spell, I'm like, usually like his champ spell being a removal spell is a lot better than a lot of other things it could be.
Absolutely.
I also think this card is like pretty scary sometimes. Like
it is,
I think it gets the C tier because it's pretty easy to play around because it's a slow spell. But Lucian's Siphoning Striking Senna is absolutely dirty. Yeah. Well, there's some problems with that play in its own right.
But like, great. I too saw that Reddit post. Thank you very much.
I do think Siphoning Strike actually does have use cases where I am scared to see it come out, because if it resolves, their champions get really large. Like, one resolved and then they played like a 5-7 or 5-8 Thresh, and I was like, you know, like, so
I agree.
Card is totally playable. I think it's just not great anyway. So
I agree.
All right, so Spirit Fire is a 7-mana burst spell. Give enemies -2/-0, and at the round end, deal 2 damage to me. For this round.
So, this card is I think, pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
yeah,
not seeing a whole lot of play.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not, and I think that is mostly to do with the fact that the Shurima decks just don't want this effect. But
yeah.
I really like the text on this card. Like, if this was an Ionia card, I would play it.
Right. I think it's a B. I think it's a solid.
I
B,
completely agree.
I agree. Absolutely.
Okay.
I really like every card does. 7 mana is a fair price for that. It's burst speed.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if your burst speed is so good, like, you know, when your opponent's just trying to attack you with a bunch of Azirs and Sand Soldiers and stuff like that, like, this card just wipes their whole board and makes it so that you take no damage.
I wonder if it's not, is it, I guess the thing that stops it from being an A tier card to me is that there's so many decks it's just kind of dead against.
Yeah, and it is a Shurima card, I think, is the other thing that makes it not A tier.
Yeah, because Shurima is not really trying to do that.
Yeah, this just isn't really a card that most Shurima decks want.
I think that's fair, but I think it's certainly a very solid card, and when it sees play, it's a scary card. It's certainly a scary card.
I agree.
All right, so a 1-mana burst spell called Stone Weaving. Look at 3 random landmarks that you can afford to cast, and then you create one in your hand. Pick one to create, rather, in your hand.
So, I mean, yeah, this really just boils down to Talia isn't good.
Yeah,
this card's so medium.
It's interesting. This one I will say, I wish I had played a little bit with this one. I don't have infinite time.
Yeah, this one has potential for me, I think, because like the prospect of, you know, queue up, oh, we're playing an aggressive matchup. All right, I'm turn 4, I'm going to try and spike a Blighted Ravine. And, okay, we're playing against a Nivea on turn 7, I'm going to try to put the Howling Abyss into play or whatever. Yeah. Like, you know, there's definitely some real stuff going on there. But the problem is that most of the landmarks are just, like,
Howling Abyss.
Really generic and not that, like I don't really want to pay 1 extra mana for most of them because they're so... Like, the only ones that come to mind that I would be happy to pay 1 extra mana for sometimes are, like, Preservarium sometimes, Howling Abyss sometimes, and, like, Blighted Ravine sometimes. And, like, the Veiled Temple, like, I would be happy to pay an extra mana for because it's the Veiled Temple, but, like, I would rather just put it in my deck. You know?
I think it plays a little better than pay 1 extra mana for a random landmark because, it doesn't have the problem of Three Sisters, where if you like compare it to Three Sisters, you always want to cast the card off you're getting off of Three Sisters on the turn you're doing it, because all of those are like so specific. But for landmarks, it's more like this landmark is good in this matchup. So I don't think you're necessarily unhappy to cast it on turn 4 if you've got 1 extra mana, and just not burn the mana that turn.
I agree.
So I don't think it's just as easy to say, like, you know, pay 1 extra mana. Sometimes it's going to be that, but sometimes it's just
I'd be a little bit higher on this card if there wasn't so many just
more
marks.
I don't know how often, but a solid amount of the time, you're going to look at, like, Monastery of Hirana, Ancient Preparation,
Grand Plaza,
or like Inner Sanctum, and you're just going to be like, these are all awful.
Okay. Are we D tier or are we C tier? On Stone.
I haven't played with the card. I'm willing to give it the C tier benefit of the doubt, but
I want to put it in D.
Same D.
Yeah, D tier's fine too.
Okay. I am also D tier on this card. I think there's just too many bad landmarks.
Yeah. That really is the big problem with it. If you could pick every time, it'd be pretty good.
Cutest boy Exalted Poro isn't immediately on top of this list. Where is Exalted Poro? Did I not download Exalted Poro? Oh gosh.
Fraudulent tier
Well,
list.
Yeah, it's
Fraudulent tier list. Just go to your Streamlabs and just like slap a picture of it in F tier.
Oh no.
Just open up OBS and just like get the clip art of Exalted
Well,
Poro.
we're lacking Exalted Poro. I will make a tier specifically for Exalted Poro so that when I create the card, when I create the tier list and post it to the subreddit, they won't chop my head off.
Yeah, I think we can make the absolutely adorable and too cute to rank tier.
Oh, yeah, transforms from Destin Poro. Well, I also don't have Destin Poro. And
I
don't
too am in
know
that
where it
tier.
is.
Too cute to rank.
Anyway. 3 mana, burst spell, Unraveled Earth, summon 2 Rolling Sands, draw 1 card. That can be fixed with a veto. You're scaring me.
It says draw a card, right? So
yes,
like
it does say draw a card, so it can only be so bad. And Rolling Sands, for those who are unfamiliar, creates a landmark that when they play an enemy, like when an enemy plays a unit, it gets vulnerable, and it destroys the landmark.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the next 2 units that your opponents play are going to get vulnerable. That's pretty annoying, especially if you're playing like First Strikers. Mm-hmm. It draws a card. I think it's a C. Don't get me wrong.
This card is at least a C. It's very good in the it's a very good enabler in the Talia deck. Now, given that deck's not that great, but
yeah, if we had a nickel for every time, we'd say this card would be better if Talia was good, comma, but, and then put it in C or D tier.
This card is just a solid role player, though, right?
Yeah, we should just rename C and D tier to the Talia tiers. Like,
yeah,
all the cards that you want to play in your Talia deck are in C or D tier.
That's sad. Sad to hear. Except for Ancient Hourglass, that one escaped.
That one escaped.
Congratulations.
But because we were pretty gracious to it.
We were a little gracious. It is it's a low B, but
yeah. All right.
Unraveled Earth, C tier. Any objections?
No.
Nope.
Very cool. Unworthy. It's a 2-mana slow spell. Give an enemy follower, important text, -4/-0 this round. If you have fewer mana crystals than your opponent, kill it instead. Needed to get a little close to read that because I haven't seen that one that often.
Man, I really thought this card was going to be really good, but like, there's just not enough stuff to consistently like. It's so unplayable on its if you aren't getting the kill a follower mode.
Yep.
Yeah, it's only 3 rights that let you do this.
Yeah, if there were just some more things, like, and 2 of the rights are in S tier,
no,
right?
Rite of Calling and Rite of Negation. I mean, both of these cards, like you said, yeah, they're really, really good.
They're really good, and the problem is that we just don't have enough copies to put.
And also, Rite of Negation is not good at turning this card on.
Yeah, like there were, I predict that this card is going to be an S in a couple patches when we get a few more Rite of Blanks.
An S, huh?
It's 2 mana.
Yeah, I can see that.
Do you remember playing Crumble in TF Go Hard?
This is fair. This is fair.
That was 5 mana, sack a creature, slow, destroy a fall. Like it is
for followers.
Yeah, destroy a champion. Sorry, but granted, it doesn't target champions. That's a big deal. We learned that with Aphelios. But like, man, this card is insanely tempo efficient. Like, I mean, when you compare this card to like, where's that? A Ruthless Predator, right? That Renekton card. You know, that people are playing, or like this card really, it's 2 mana. This is by far the most efficient removal spell in the game.
That is true.
It's not close.
Yeah.
If we can turn this card on, it's going to be an S, I think. But like,
okay, well,
we can't do it consistently enough yet. So I think that this card is going to be meta defining in a few patches, but we just don't have quite enough tools.
We're not ready for it yet. Our kids will love it.
It has to be. Is it just an F then? Like understanding the fact that, you know, this card could be really good if cards were changed or cards are, you know, new cards come out. But currently,
potential, I would be willing to.
I want to put it in D.
Okay. I just think the card's current potential, given the card pool right now.
Yeah, I actually agree. Like I think it probably is an F right now, and that makes me very sad because I think it's one of the most powerful cards in this set. Actually,
I just don't think there are any cases where you can afford to put this card in your deck.
If not enough follower, it just says follow. Like, If it didn't say follower, we could have a discussion here.
Yes,
It says follower, therefore we can't. Is where I'm at.
Yeah.
Plus, it's a slow spell.
Not the not enabled mode is so bad.
Yeah, the real big problem here is that when you do not have less mana crystals than your opponent, this card is absolutely an F.
Yeah.
So like, and you just don't turn it on enough. Like basically the only card that turns it on is Rite of Calling, and even that usually in the early game is sacrificing creatures instead of mana.
All right. We're getting down to it. We've got 9 cards left. Sorry. And this one is a 3/4. It costs 4 mana, and it's Voice of the Risen. If you have leveled a champion, allies get +2/+0. I'm gonna run to the bathroom while you guys talk about this and get some water.
Sounds good. I'm over this card.
Yeah, same.
I am not interested in playing this card, I don't think.
Yep. You have to have leveled a champion.
The only card it's ever going to be good with is Azir, and there's so many better things to be doing in that deck than this. That I just want no part in this card. I don't think I could see a world where this card could see some play in like a spider deck or something, maybe, where like you're trying, maybe it's like Elise Azir or something weird, like just trying to really zerg the board and just put as many 1/1s into play as possible, and this could maybe be at the top of that or something. But like, or maybe in like a discard aggro shell type thing with crowd favorite or something like that too. But like, it requires you to level a champion, and like, so your champions have to be easy to level, and you have to be aggressively attacking, and your leveled champions have to be not good enough that they aren't just going to win the game by themselves. So,
yep, off it.
I think it's a D, probably. Maybe fringe. It's probably fringe playable.
Yeah, I can see D.
What
Plus 2/+0 is a lot.
I think that's fine. I just don't. I'm looking. I was thinking like, oh, we could put this in C, and I'm looking at the C cards, and I'm just like, no, we really can't.
Yeah, it's forming a 3/4. Like it actually like fails the stat test, which a lot of the C cards just are generally like reasonably statted cards, at least. You know.
Yeah, no, for sure.
This one is just not.
3/1. Yeah.
Yeah, this one just like it fails the stat test. Yeah.
So you guys aren't high in Voice of the Raven, is what I'm.
Sounds like D tier.
Oh boy. Well, God, I actually think it is B. Or sorry, not B. I think it is at least C. I don't know how much you guys have played with or against Azir. Azir is one of the easiest champions to flip in the game. He usually does it at about turn 5 or 6. If you're firing on any cylinders at all. I actually think this card has a lot of potential that people haven't been looking at.
Are those decks playing him though?
No, they're not, which is why I think that I think this card has more potential than people are giving it credit for. And now that I'm looking at this card again and thinking about how easy it is to level Azir, I actually think there's potential that this card should be in the C tier, and that might just be my affinity with Inspiring Marshal, because I think Inspiring Marshal just like wins the game by itself if it's on the board in those decks.
So I guess I've got a question: is if Azir levels and it's in your deck, but we haven't cast it, like we aren't going to get the trigger, right? Like,
no,
you have to cast the Azir level, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I just don't think you're going to play this card. Like,
I mean, but it's
in order for it to be good, you have to go Azir into this card, right? It's going to be horrid. Like
you can go the other way around. You could go Voice into Azir.
Well, yeah, true. But like, you have to draw your Azir, basically. Mm-hmm. Like,
yeah, for
sure. That's level 1. Is you have to draw your Azir for this card to be good.
Yeah.
And like
Lucian,
that doesn't happen every game.
Lucian also flips really easily. Just putting that one.
Lucian does flip really easily. I agree, though. We're gonna have to make room in this deck. Like the +2/+0, like it's just so hard to find a deck that is aggressive enough and flips its champions easily enough, and the flip champions aren't good enough, so that you feel like you have to play this card. Like this just has to be.
I think the deck already exists. I think it's literally Lucian Azir, and now that I'm talking about it, like this is not something I literally thought about before this, but now that we're talking about it, I think that this card is actually pretty reasonable, and I kind of want to test it out. A 3/4 body isn't embarrassing in its own right. I'm not saying you're happy playing it if it's not leveled when it comes down. But if it is leveled when it comes down, it is an absolute all-star, right?
Yeah, it's quite good when it's online.
So
it's quite
Does
good.
it pump itself?
it just says allies, so I assume it does.
Yeah,
it is quite good when it's online. That is for sure. But I don't know how many of these games are you like leveling Azir and then like having a lot of creatures so that you're really getting a lot of pumps out of this, and you're still just not getting there.
Pretty
This is
often.
going to change the fact. I don't know.
If you guys are still all on D, we can move on, and that's fine. I just think there's a case for C here, but
I think there's I don't hate your case for C. There is a deck that exists, and you could put it in that deck, and it might be okay.
Let's put this in D.
I want to put this in C. I'm with Nico now.
All right, that's fair. I mean, sure.
So we got 2 and 2. Does anyone want to break tie, or we'll just put it in
C
D?
is fine.
All right, very cool. C it is. All right, we've got Waking Sands. It is a 2-mana slow spell. Summon a 5/2 ephemeral. Cards
I'm not particularly interested in playing 2-mana 5/2 ephemerals.
It is 1 more damage than stock than Onslaught
Dune.
Shadows.
It's 1 more damage than Dunekeeper.
Yeah, I tend to agree that Waking Sands does not get the nod in any reasonable way.
I think it should be at least a D. It's more damage than
Not
Onslaught.
enough. It's D. It's
Yeah, I agree. It's D, but
It's D? Really?
yeah.
I mean it's a low tier D, but
Yeah, fine.
Wait a minute, where do slow spells go?
Somehow entirely slow spell tier.
Weight of Judgment. Guess what? It's our last slow spell. Deal 2 to a champion or 7 to a follower. 4 mana.
It's got to be an F, right?
F? There's no way this card's an F, right? It's a removal spell.
It is a removal
Is it
spell.
though? I guess it does always remove a follower. That's fair.
It's
This
a bit of a
can't be,
sad
like,
removal spell.
This can't be an F. When you compare this card to the Fs, like this
Well,
card is.
we already have a removal spell in F. It's called Boomerang Blade.
Yeah,
I've
it's
played
really
this
much
card because it feels terrible.
Yeah, this card
always.
looks in it. I don't know. It
Yeah,
looks real bad.
I'm not. Don't worry. I'm not going to try and get it any higher than D tier, but I do think it's probably a D. I think this card is much better than Waking Sands.
What deck do you want this in? I cannot imagine a scenario where I want this card in my deck.
That's very fair.
Because like, if you're playing a control deck, then you're gonna pair it with a region that actually has good control, or like removal, because this removal ain't good.
It really does come back to the fact that like Shurima just doesn't really want this effect.
Yeah.
But like even then, at least this card has text. Like the F tier cards, like just don't even have text most of the time.
But every once in a while they do, just like this card will if you put it in your deck.
But this card always has text. This card is at least going to kill a follower when you want it every time, right? Like this card is never just going to sit in your hand and be like, I will never cast this card. It's awful.
So it's like
You're
a worse. It's like a worse Calibrum.
Yes.
Sick.
Yes, it is.
Really?
It's bad.
What a
I'm not
stellar
gonna-
argument for it being in the.
Oh my
DT.
god, that's so bad.
I mean, it kills Twisted Fate and Tephelius now.
It kills Twisted Fate if they don't have a suit up or a way to level it in response. Look, I want this to be an F, but I think we just take a vote off and move on because this card
I'm
is
fine with
almost
D.
never.
I like F.
I just this card is just better than the Fs, I think.
Then we'll put it in D tier.
But like, do you ever like back to the? Are you ever putting this deck in card? This
I am not
card
going
in any deck ever in a million years. Like
I am not going to put any of these cards in D tier in any deck ever in a million years. So
you're
no.
going to put a buried sun disc in your deck sometimes.
Yeah,
I
when I'm
think
making
there's-
a montage for Twitter.
There's definitely some of these cards. There's some of these cards in D tier that I might try brewing with at some point. I will never ever brew with Weight of Judgment in a million years.
That's
It's
fair,
just
but
one
like
more deck.
Council.
Like,
Brew card.
yeah, it's not a brew card. Like it's just you're not going to brew with it because you know how good it is, right? Like like
Well,
the
that's what I'm saying though. Like the D
like, this
cards,
card-
I
We're
will
talking
try
about
to put in my
potential,
deck
and
every
we
once in a
know its
while.
potential is 0. How is it not F?
I agree. I feel
I
like
think
you're
Its
conflating.
potential is 0. It's not going in a deck, therefore its potential is 0 because it won't get played. It's F.
It's getting heated in here. Time to take the old hoodie off.
This card is also like.
I think this card is significantly more likely to go in a deck than Devoted.
Sorry, are you meaning to tell me that there is not a 0% chance of this card going in a deck?
There is.
Oh God.
It's a 0% chance. You are admitting that right now. It's 0.
Yeah, along with many of the other cards in
No,
D-tier.
I don't think that's even true. I think that there are metagames and like scenarios, especially in a tournament, where I just need to put this in my deck.
Please, someone.
Okay, it's an F. It's an F.
Hugh,
Put it in F right now.
Can you veto this, please?
This card's a D. There is no way this card is like. Look at the cards in F tier.
I don't care about the other cards in F tier, Alex. If it never goes in a deck ever, 0% of the time, ever. You said it, 0%. It has 0 potential. Therefore, it is
heads.
F.
Heads is F. Tails is D. Guess what? It's heads. It's going in the F tier unless someone vetoes it.
I'm not vetoing this card. It's right around there. Like I'm not gonna play it. It's just better than F tier. That's all it is.
It's an F.
It's the new best card in F. Congratulations.
All right, definitely the best card in F tier.
All right,
it's actually playable.
It would arguably be the best part of D tier.
Yes, that's what I'm
trying. What are you talking about? You're insane.
You're not gonna put it in a deck, but it's an actual reasonable card. Like I know you're not gonna play it, but it's a reasonable card.
I would put Callus Bonecrusher. I would put Devoted Council. I would put Esteemed Hierophant in decks before I would put Weight of Judgment in my deck.
Do you know what Weight of Judgment does? Kills all of those cards.
Yes, and guess what? Dies to Doomblade is not a very good argument.
I know. I was obviously.
Look, all I'm saying is if you end up in a world where you think to yourself that you are playing a control deck that really needs to put Deny, if Feel the Rush is the best deck in the format, and you really need Deny, and Ionia is just garbage, then I could see a world where my control deck wants a Deny, so I'm playing Shurima for Right of Negation, and I just need to kill blank.
You don't get to make any of these arguments when you agree that this deck is going.
I am powerless
at the time.
You heard it
0.
here. The most divisive card.
If you want me to tell you the cards in D tier that I'm 0% to play, there's 5 of them at least. Like that's not the point. There are many cards in D tier that are in D tier that I'm 0% to play.
And we all know how good you are at evaluating Runeterra cards.
I'm 0% to play most cards because they're bad. I'm not going to play these bad cards. But that doesn't mean that, like, if somebody came to me and had a Weight of Judgment in their deck, like, I'm going to be like, this card's probably bad, you should take it out. Right, but if somebody came to me with these, like, Walking Sands in their deck, I'm going to be like, this card is awful.
Okay, let's be real here. If someone came to you and showed you their deck and you saw Weight of Judgment in that deck, you wouldn't say this card's probably bad. You would fucking flame them.
Yeah,
no,
come on.
Yeah, that's absolutely not true. I think the card is totally reasonable. I'm vetoing. Put this card in D tier.
He's vetoing. He's vetoing.
He's vetoed. Noble has vetoed. He has spoken.
I almost put it in C with my veto.
How do you guys think? Like I mean, this card is so much better than these F tier cards. It's playable.
Says what? What are you? Oh my god!
It has a good effect when you put it on the stack.
Oh my
playable,
god!
But probably worse than other options is a hell of a lot better than
most of these F tiers,
yeah.
And most of these things in D tiers.
That is
all right. That card took way longer than I thought it would.
Yeah,
the most divisive card that we've ever discussed. Certainly.
How is that
actually named?
I'm so sorry, Arise, that I had to waste my veto.
Doomed in F tier. Doomed in F tier.
Wait. The rules on the veto. Can someone just clarify? Am I allowed to veto?
No, you cannot veto the veto. As soon as someone has claimed the veto, like if you had vetoed it to F before he did, it's an F. But you've got better veto cards.
I do, because that Ruinous path is straight to S, baby.
He's still in B tier, at least for now.
3-mana creature, or unit rather, Xenotype Researchers. It is a 3/3 that when summoned, it grants 3 random allies in your deck, +3/+3.
Yeah, so like this card's actually been pretty good. Like I've seen people doing some stuff with it, and the things that they're doing are like pretty good and cool.
Yeah. I agree.
Little janky, totally fine.
It's a little janky.
Solid C.
If someone said B here, I would definitely hear them out, but I'm also leaning C. I will say it has absolutely performed better than I expected it to.
It's
Actually, I still think it's
unfortunate news for your Xenotype Researcher Predict deck that all of your cards are in C tier.
Yeah,
So,
I'm actually willing to try to make the argument for B tier.
I agree. I think it's a B tier. I think it is B tier on potential.
Absolutely. This is the best.
I'm into it. B tier.
By a lot.
It doesn't have Predict, but I know what you mean.
Like, this is the best card in the Predict deck by a lot.
Yeah.
And, like, it's the reason to be doing it. It can do some very like, I've seen it do some busted stuff in the past with.
I'm not 100% certain that you actually need to be in the Predict deck for this card to just be completely playable, which is why I'm like more on it being in a B card, because it's totally fine.
Yeah, it reads pretty bad. And now that I've seen people play it, it plays pretty good. I think this is a B.
B tier for potential is what my mom said about me. Oh.
Oh.
B tier for potential. We got the researchers in the chat.
Hey, well, guess what? Okay. B tier for potential has landed you in the same category as Ruinous Path, who Hugh thinks is an S. So maybe you're just a sleeper S. Who knows? You could be.
You're the sleeper veto S.
Yeah. All right, we get into champions. We've got 5 champions to discuss.
I'm putting my weight of judgment in my deck right now.
Oh god, I really hate it.
Rip your LP, sir.
Yep. All right, we've got Sivir, a 4-mana 5/3. She's got fast attack and spell shield, and if you've dealt 35 damage, she flips. And her backside says that she shares her keywords with allies when she is attacking.
All right.
Have we discovered yet if her spell shield has been popped if she gives spell shield?
She
does not give spell shield because the card itself loses the keyword. Like if you click on the card, the keyword's no longer there if the spell shield's popped.
Neat. Digital card games
fast attack. You're right. Oh no. I did say first strike, didn't I?
Fast attack and it's quick attack.
Oh, it's quick attack. Oh god, I really messed it up. Well, I think this card is very good. I'm not certain it is S tier.
I agree.
Definitely not. I think it's A.
I agree that it is A.
Well. I think they're a very solid A.
Yes, she's a very solid A. And like
some serious stuff would need to happen for her to either go to S or A. Like she would need to start seeing a lot of play.
Mm-hmm. I think she could certainly get to an S if better shells are discovered for her. But currently, she the shells are kind of lacking around Sivir. But as a card, she's really powerful. Certainly, really powerful.
Yeah, I guess we're all in agreement here. So just solid A.
Sweet. Azir. He's a 1-mana, or sorry, he's a 3-mana 1/5.
1 mana. Can you imagine?
Yeah. Okay. 3-mana 1/5 that when allies attack, you summon an attacking Sand Soldier, and once you have summoned 10+ units, he flips into a 2/6 that when allies attack, you get a Sand Soldier, and he gets and gives +1/+0 to the ally that to an ally you summon. Sorry, I said that really poorly. So like if you summon an ally, it gets +1/+0.
Yeah,
for the round.
Yes, for the round, and he gets +1/+0.
I'll be honest. This card has not impressed me, but that's because I've been playing only decks that crush this deck.
I was going to say you're a lunatic. This card's an ass.
That's because this card's insane.
This card is an easy S, I think. It's the best champion they've printed. There's just really a lot to love about him, and I think the biggest thing is that he's a 1/5 in a deck that needs to not get killed by sweepers.
Absolutely. And imagine, okay, one thing I would like you to think about. People who want to play some ladder. Imagine putting this card in play against a Fiora. Think about it for a little bit, and then put Fiora into your deck.
Okay, yes, but...
Oh, I think this card's great. I think this card's unequivocally great. It is definitely easy to hate out, or easy-ish. There are a lot of decks running around that are built to beat it, but that's because it's the best deck right now.
I'm not even 100% sure there's a lot of... It's just that Azir and Emperor's Dais make that deck fairly resistant to sweepers, like, So it has game, right? And
Absolutely,
Azir is
yeah.
just very strong. I mean, I think we're all in agreement, right? So
Yeah.
This card's an S. It's great.
Yeah. All right. The sad girl herself, 5 mana, 2/4. You know her name. It's Talia. We've said it a lot. When she comes down, you copy a landmark, an allied landmark. You level up she levels up if you've summoned 5+ landmarks. And when she flips, she does a bunch of stuff. It's actually not a bunch of stuff. She does 2 damage to her blocker, I believe. If the blocker is gone, it's 2 to Nexus. And
she does 2 damage to her blocker 3 times, and it goes over if her blocker's dead.
That's if you have a landmark. If you don't have a landmark, it's only 2. Or you only do it once, rather.
Okay.
Yeah.
You always have a landmark, though. Fun fact. She's flipped, you have a landmark in play.
Yes.
Yeah. So, like, she's really... Actually, I think that the card Talia is quite good. Unfortunately, all of the things surrounding her just suck.
Oh, it's Riven.
Yeah, like, I don't know. Like I named C and D tier the Talia tier for a reason. Like, it's just where all of the cards that you would put in the Talia deck are. So it means Talia is, like, basically there too. Right? And, like, maybe... I stand by the fact that Talia... that's a powerful effect and a pretty reasonable champion. Like, it's got, copy a landmark on the face of it. That's pretty good if the landmarks are good. Flips into a card that kills people pretty hard. Like, also quite good. But it just doesn't get there. There's just not enough good stuff to be doing with her that you can hope to win the game in a reasonable way that is not just piggybacking off Talia, and she's not that good.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I'm not sure where exactly I'd put her, but I'd probably put her... I honestly, right now, would put her in the D tier. I think that's...
I want to put her in the B tier, personally, but, like, I don't think we can really...
She is the worst champion by win rate.
Yeah, she's in D tier, I think. Like,
I don't want to put her in D. Let's put her in C. Come on.
The worst win rate in the game.
Yeah,
well, she's out of judgment, so we can't put her in D.
Oh my god. Shut up.
I don't know. She's the lowest win rate champion in the game. Like,
she has to go... I think she has to go in D tier because of how hard she makes it to build your deck. You have to put so many bad cards in your deck to make her work that I really struggle to think that she's not a D tier champion right now.
At least with the current cards available, similar to I forget the name, but the card we put in F, the 2 mana kill a follower, give -4/-0, right? Like, she's
unworthy.
Kind of that. Yeah, she's kind of similar to that card for me, where it's like there's some potential here, but, like, people have explored it, and we just can't get there this patch.
In fact, we put unworthy in F tier, so
yeah, exactly. It's just not, like, you can't play.
I do think she deserves.
I think the card's good, but
because
oh yeah, I don't think she's an
all
F.
of the F tier cards. If my opponent played them, I'd be like, wow. But if my opponent keeps up with Talia deck, I'm like, okay, probably not optimal, but could be good. Like, I'm willing.
right.
Like Alex said before, I'm willing to hear them out. I'm willing to hear it out.
By the end of this patch, Talia very easily could be an F, and Talia very easily could be a C.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
She might just get buffed. I mean, this is the way of Legends of Terra too. Like, some of these really bad, especially champions, might just get buffed and skyrocket.
but we can't really make an assumption around whether she's gonna.
We're not tiering that.
Oh, absolutely.
All right. Renekton, or sorry, not Renekton. We're doing Nasus first. Nasus is a 6 mana 2/2 that you get. He gets +1/+1 for each unit you've slain this game. When you strike for 10+ damage, he levels up, and when he is leveled, he has the same effects except that he gives all enemies -1/-0, and he also gets a +1/+1. Just on the base stat line.
This one, I think that this is going to be the hardest champion to tier.
I want to put him in B, personally. I don't want to put him in A.
Oh, I was thinking C.
Yeah, I think
good.
it's certainly not going into A tier, and I think it's quite close between B and C tier.
Like, this card is honestly just worse than They Who Endure.
It certainly has felt like it.
I'm not certain.
I don't know,
true.
though.
I think Nasus is better than They Who Endure for a couple of reasons. one, I think the fact that like the flip condition is actually not irrelevant. I think that he flips fairly often, at least when I've been playing against the deck. And when he flips, he is really annoying. I don't think the argument that Hush just kind of negates his effect is that relevant right now because Hush is kind of at an all-time low.
That is true.
True
so,
that.
you know, I'm not sure that's like a super valid argument right now. And he's just like a very solid beat stick. He pairs really, really well with Atrocity too.
Yeah.
There's a reason why he's been playing he's been seeing more play than Renekton, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah,
It's
probably true.
Keeps growing while he's on board, which is relevant.
Mm-hmm.
And did lose me a game because my opponent righted negation to their own unit.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, whatever, that's fine. Nice griefing. And then it pumped his thing and ate my dude. Just use the Orify, people.
Really annoying to play around because they can kill your thing to pump him. They can kill their own thing to pump him.
Yeah. With trying to kill Nasus with damage is just not going to happen.
Yep.
Well, I don't think he's an A. I do think he's worse than Sivir, pretty noticeably, about a tier worse.
Yes.
But I think he's probably a B.
Yeah. He secretly has Fury.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think he is. I've done the full roller coaster on this card. I was when he came out, I was this actually card looks pretty solid. He's a beat stick. And then a week later, I thought to myself, this is a weak card. This why would I ever play Nasus? And then now I'm you know what? No, this is a solid card, and there's a lot of reasons I would put this in my deck.
The only reason I was low on him going into this conversation is none of his decks have particularly impressed me at all.
That's fair. I've liked the Nasus Thresh deck. I think there's definitely something there. That's been my opinion.
At minimum, really sweet.
Yes.
So it's got to get a tier bump for that, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So I'm comfortable putting it in B tier. I don't know if anyone feels really strongly about it.
That's where I would use this card. Yep.
Sounds good to me. And the last champion, Renekton, a 4-mana 4/4 that when he challenges a unit, you give him +2/+1 that round. When he deals 12 damage, he has Overwhelm, very relevant text line. When he's dealt 12 damage, he flips into a 5/5 that does the same. No, he gets +3/+3 when he attacks. That's what
whenever he attacks.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
This one's going to be
flip actually.
I'm curious to see what I have not actually played with the champion Renekton yet. I've played against it a lot, but I've not gotten the chance to put it into my deck. So I'm curious where you guys think this one lands.
I honestly think he kind of just lands in B.
Yep, that's my spot too. I think he's just, he's a very solid role player. I don't think he's really ever going to do anything that's that impressive. But when you're talking about a solid beat stick champion, he does exactly what he says on the tin.
Yep. All right. That's pretty much where I'm at.
He's played slightly better than I would expect, especially with the Demacia for fight spells. And so, yeah.
All right. Well, that is that. We've got every card on the tier list. 2 people have vetoes, though. That is Alex and Hugh.
All right. So I'll give you a little bit of a break.
Okay.
I won't put it in S, but we're putting goddamn Ruinous Path in A.
All right. That I appreciate. At least, God.
All right, let me give a look over at this tier list.
Mm-hmm.
To be honest, I'm pretty happy with it. I'm
actually pretty happy with it.
I'm not sure I need to veto any of these cards. I'm pretty confident that this is about where they should all be.
So you admit I was? Oh, never mind. Weight of Judgment didn't go to F, right? Because he put it in D. He vetoed it to D.
Yep.
Oh, and I would have if he hadn't. So
it's my favorite veto in the entire thing.
Wait, get on a rise. Let's get a rise up there.
No,
I'm
absolutely not.
Leaving that one to die.
A rise is not a D.
Rise is an F, sir.
This card is worse than Weight of
We
Judgment.
spent a lot of time talking about how a lot of cards that are very good with a rise are really good. That's all I'm saying.
And and you never putting a Rise in your deck because they're all better than it, and therefore.
Sure.
I will say, Alex, I think you missed the boat. You could have vetoed a rise, or sorry, you could have vetoed Ruinous Path to be a B before Hugh did, but now we're here.
Alex wanted for
Just
sure.
veto to leave it where it is.
Alex wanted for sure, yeah.
But oh well, we missed the boat.
Okay. Actually, here's the one.
Okay.
It's that.
Oh no,
You know the one.
I do.
It should be in D tier for sure.
Preparations?
That's a D tier card. It absolutely is going in D tier.
All right.
But
Well,
Alex,
I hate it. I hate that card. It's getting the coral creatures treatment from me. Every
boy.
time you bring it up, I'm just gonna flame it. So why is this X?
All right.
all right.
fine.
Alex made this tier list significantly less postable on Reddit. That's fine.
well, guess what? We got a hot take.
We need the hot takes. Right?
Yeah, all right.
If we just posted bog standard tier list, it's gonna be no good.
So, do we want to do this again with the other Empires of the Ascended cards?
I would love to do that. I think that sounds
really fun.
really
this was
fun.
this was a good time.
Yeah,
enjoyed
I
that.
had a great time.
This is a
Someone,
Sanctum podcast episode.
I mean, basically, yeah. I mean, someone mentioned that it'd be really good to get a card indicator, so I'm going to try to work on that for the next one. I'm not sure exactly how I'm going to implement it, but
Honestly, you could just a jank way to do it is just make a smaller window and put it in the top right corner. I guess the top right
Yeah.
is taken with your vetoes.
that could work. We'll see. I mean, I got a top left corner to work with, so we'll find out a way to do it. But
Thanks for having us
coming
on, Nico.
Yeah, I had a great time.
Now?
I've got something to do, so I need to get out of here. But if you guys enjoyed watching it as well, I hope to see you around. You could throw a follow. You could also throw a follow to Lounging Wizard is Noble's stream title. Alex, have you done any streaming yet?
I have not. Still getting set up, but I plan to have a schedule up and running starting probably Monday or something.
Awesome.
So
Yeah.
And I did host this the whole time, so I'll piggyback a little bit
Wow.
off.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
LeBlanc is not on the tier list because these are only the Shurima cards. So we are probably going to do another tier list with the rest of the cards from the expansion. But we wanted to do it in two parts because I think it split up nicely.
Yeah, we spent 2.5 hours doing this. So.
Exactly. So I feel like this was a nice, chunk. But yeah, thanks for coming on.
Having us on. We'll talk to you soon.
Really awesome.
Yeah, see
All right.
you guys.
See ya.